What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we back with another amazing Naruto one-shot. What if Naruto had mysterious power? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. In the dark of night, a loud sound was heard, possibly louder than the screams of the entire Haruno family. It was the snoring of one Uzumaki Naruto. The whiskered blonde was fast asleep, recovering from an earlier scuffle with a most mysterious missing nin, while downstairs things were far from perfect. Shut the dobe up. A Uchiha can't nor will sleep in these conditions. One arrogant prick by the name of Uchiha Sasuke, a duck-haired black-haired kid with severe issues, complained to their sensei, a silver-haired masked ninja of the Jonin rank, by the name of Hitaki Kakashi. The masked man sighed. Listening to the boy rant through his locked door. Luckily for the noise level, the pink-haired one was asleep as well. I know that the guy should be too tired to move around at this point, but this is my story, so he just recovered quicker than in the anime or manga. He hadn't really wanted to teach anyway. Kakashi saw himself as more of a lone operative, he worked the best alone. The few friends he had died in battle beside him. His sensei, who happened to be the so-called Dobe's father, not that anyone aside from a few knew that. Obito-san Rin-chan. Did that leave Guy his best friend? Sometimes, the silver-haired man had to wonder if he had a curse that killed all those who were close to him. That was the point he argued with trying to get out of teaching in the first place. Flashback. Hokage's office, the day after the Rookie 9 graduated. Hitaki-san, you must train Uchiha-sama. He needs the jutsu in your arsenal, more than any other genin, and other. Homura, an old man who for some reason was still considered an active ninja, and his sidekick, a evil granny who looked like the mother of some sort of evil toad virgin ant. Harry Potter fans may know another of this description, called Dolores Umbridge, named Kaharu, actively demanded the masked nin, with fellow future mentors Yuhi Kurenai and Sarutobi Asuma, along with ninja parents Hyuga Hiyashi, Inuzuka Sume, Akamichi Shuza, Nara Shikaku and Aburame Shibi. The Sandame Hokage, an old, still tanned-skinned man by the name of Sarutobi Hiruzen, coughed to interrupt the current conversation. And by other, you mean Naruto-kun, who despite being labeled a dead last, managed to defeat a Chunin and master a Jonin-level technique. The Hokage took a blow of his pipe crossly. He cared a lot for the spunky little Jinchuriki, and couldn't help but wonder if Naruto was able to learn a technique like that so quickly, yet fail his exams. He decided to ask to put someone on it. He and Iruka-kun from the academy always had a bad feeling some of the instructors may have sabotaged Naruto's lessons. In fact, they had managed to catch a former janitor of the academy attempt to break Naruto's chair in the classroom, though the man admitted that others were with him in the anti-Naruto plan. Courtesy of some persuasion, via Anko and Ibiki, he managed to pull the civilian council to his side, and he had to have the janitor go before they could get names. That wasn't saying he couldn't fire him, though. Homura-sama, I hear what you say, and while you have a point or two, I'm not going to train him. Bad luck follows me, the kind of luck that kills, that and I have more important things to do with my time. Besides, the boy's attitude was detesting, but he couldn't bring that up without the old bats telling him that the boy was merely suffering from trauma. Yeah, no way in hell that was true, he was just a spoiled brat. So, other than the all-important Uchiha, can we actually get something done? Hiyashi sighed. Like organizing the new genin. Now, while Hiyashi may appear to dislike Hinata, he does care, slightly. While he was no dad of the year, he did have an interest in who would be on his daughter's team. The team, after all, had to push her to improve and protect her unmarked Byakugan Dujutsu Kekai Genkei. Hiyashi-san has a point, we already know one team, the new Ino Shikacho team, my team. Asuma grinned while smoking his trademark cigarette. While normally this would induce a complaint from Sume for her sensitive nose, Shibi for its health issues to his bugs, and the old bats, they decided not to, in the hope that the smoke shortens the two advisors' lifespan. That leaves Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, Hyuga Hinata, Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, and Uzumaki Naruto. Do we really need to teach that boy anything? Kaharu snapped. That boy is too dangerous, idiotic, irresponsible, immature. He's a teenager, that sort of comes with the territory. Shikaku sighed. It's troublesome, but we all were like that. Heck, even my boy acts like that, sometimes. And after all, we have to take on any genin who manages to pass the academy, and the test that follows, Shibi stated in his monotone, causing the elders to pale. After all, they helped the civilian council pass that law, after all, to give the civilians more ninja from their way of life into the armed forces, thus increasing their overall influence. And as to his immaturity, perhaps being teamed with my son could possibly help him mature. Or, the thing inside him will kill off all your insects with its da. The Hokage coughed to cut off Homura. Shibi didn't flinch. He knew quite well his son was safe from the chakra that the Jinchuriki could possibly give off, for unlike the old badgers, he and the rest of the parents here met the boy once or twice, and knew he was not a monster. Actually, I think that setup might work, with my daughter, Hinata, on the team, as well, Hiyashi mentioned, surprising everyone. Huh? Shuza grunted. This is new and troublesome. What was in my water this morning? Sume said to herself. Going off what Shibi-san said, if my daughter was placed on his team, perhaps some of his drive might pass to her. At the minimum, even the most basic of Byakugan could tell if his tenant's chakra was getting loose or influencing him. Hiyashi let off a rare grin. The council had a betting pool for who was able to best beat or mess with the idiots on the Elder and Civilian Council each meeting, and it looks like the 3 free hot spring coupons were all his. Actually, we of the Elder Council had talked it over, and we decided that Inuzuka Kiba would provide the same sort of inspiration to your daughter, Hiyashi-san. Kaharu smiled evilly. Inside, Hiyashi was cursing. Now he couldn't get those tickets without insulting Sume. Last time he did that, the Hyuga compound smelled like dog piss for a month. No one noticed that Kakashi was smirking. So, then it looks like Kurenai-chan has Inuzuka Kiba, Hyuga Hinata and Aburame Shino, so I guess that means that Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto are on my team, the Jonin smirked. The resulting scream of fury from the elders shook several window frames, and one masked Jonin got himself 3 hot spring coupons and was treated to a night of fine drinking with Sume and the former Ino Shikacho on their tab, of course. End flashback. Kakashi quickly came to a conclusion after that, teaching sucked. He was actually expected to be on time and had to deal with whining from all 3 of them. Though seeing Sasuke getting clawed by Tora was a good chuckle. Kakashi quickly decided that Naruto was his favorite among the 3. While Sakura was virtually useless, and Sasuke an arrogant prick who expected Kakashi to teach him all his jutsu and strutted around like royalty, Naruto was willing to learn, and most importantly, he had humility, well more than the others anyway. Naruto didn't have anything handed to him like his teammates, and knew how to respond to failure, by getting back up and improving himself. Kakashi saw that with how his failure with the Demon Brothers, led to his desire to better himself, which led to his shocking show of skill in fighting Momoichi Zabuza. If the boy could use such skill with only 2 jutsu really at his disposal, with only a little help from Sasuke, the boy could be just as great as his own sensei, Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage. Of course, the boy needed to pick up a few more jutsu first, and improve on his taijutsu, and chakra control, and perhaps see if he could use genjutsu. What did they teach him at the academy, anyway? The boy's taijutsu left too many weak spots, and he could barely spell genjutsu, let alone do it. His chakra control was abysmal. Pakun could use a jutsu better than the boy. If the Kyuubi wasn't in him, he'd be in a lot of trouble, as his lack of taijutsu nearly cost them. Flashback, Wave Country. The group, weary from their last battle with the swordsman Zabuza, who was killed by the Kiri hunter Nin boy. Though Naruto was still adamant though the Nin was female. And Tazuna seemed to agree with him about her gender. With their exhausted sensei being carried by the knucklehead and brooder, before Sakura yelped loudly to get the others' attention. Sasuke-kun, Kakashi-sensei, Baka. Standing before them was a new ninja. This ninja was wearing ragged brown robes that covered his face, with no visible height. In fact, all they could tell was this ninja was male. Ah, so Zabuza-chan was defeated by a bunch of brats and a dead-weight ninja, No matter, it appears I had to kill the bridge builder now. We won't let you, Datbeo. Naruto yelled, before dropping Kakashi. Their sensei then flattened Sasuke, before the Uchiha pushed the unconscious man off, as Tazuna backed away slowly. Dobi, how dare you drop such a weight on an elite? Naruto ignored him. Yeah, Baka, how dare you try to flatten Sasuke-kun? The ever-faithful pink-haired bitch added in. Naruto flinched in pain at that remark, before turning back towards their strange enemy. Humph, what pathetic teamwork, this won't be worth the chakra. Beast waved palm. The mysterious ninja sliced his hand, which was coated in blue chakra, as a shockwave of wind-energized chakra flew at the genin. Sasuke and Sakura jumped out of the way. The jutsu would have instead continued and struck Tazuna and Kakashi, but Naruto, before jumping, did everyone's favorite hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A shadow clone appeared where Naruto was a second ago, taking the strike and bursting into smoke. This move was witnessed by the so-called out-cold Kakashi, who made a mental note to punish the others later. Not being undone, Sasuke did a series of hand signs before ending on a tiger seal. Fire release. Great fireball technique. A large ball of fire flew from the mouth of the Uchiha and flew straight at their foe. The foe calmly did the hand signs bird, boar and serpent. Water release. Bubble barrier. The ninja let out a burst of bubbles from his mouth, which formed into a wall that took the fireball head-on and negated it entirely. Shit. Sasuke grumbled as Sakura charged at the ninja with a fury, a kunai in hand. Time to prove myself worthy of Sasuke-kun. A ninja who plays with bubbles is no match for. She was thinking before the ninja did hare, monkey, horse and rat. Genjutsu. Zora's illusion of darkness. Sakura suddenly dropped her kunai and fell to the ground, twitching. However, no one noticed her nose bleed. Sasuke-kun. Oh. Sakura ch. Naruto said, before finding himself unable to call her that, before he created a series of shadow clones who charged at the Rouge Ninja. The ninja quickly put together the hand signs dragon and tiger. Foolish, wind release. Hurricane gust. The ninja inhaled deeply, before letting out a gust of high-powered wind that blew away about all of the shadow clones, before he heard a crunch in the leaves. Turning, he saw to his shock 2 shadow clones coming at him from behind. Little brat must have used those clones as a distraction, impressive. Get out of my way, Dobi, fire release, great fireball technique. Out of nowhere, a huge fireball flew and consumed the shadow clones and flew at the Rouge. Teme, you ruined my plan. Naruto yelled. So what, as a Uchiha, my plans are naturally better, Dobi. The still immobile Kakashi was fuming now. That boy was getting trialed when they got back. Actually, those shadow clones were more likely to succeed than your pathetic fireball, water release. Gunshot. A burst of water flew from the ninja's mouth, followed by several more. The fireball was hollowed out to resemble a flaming donut before it faded, as the water bullets flew into the woods, before bursting and sending Naruto and Sasuke flying into the air. The Uchiha hit the ground, as did Naruto a second later before he burst into smoke. What, another shadow clone? The Rouge Ninja gasped before he suddenly felt a kunai approach him. He barely managed to avoid the weapon, as dozens more flew at him. The ninja managed to avoid being turned to Swiss cheese, but one still managed to embed itself into his right leg. Rag, ha! A dozen Narutos flew from the woods, all tossing more kunai at their foe, surrounding the ninja. The ninja, with his injury, barely avoided getting any more, before he closed his eyes and wet his lips with saliva, as if to test the wind. A second later, his eyes shot open, before he jumped with his good leg and flew at the Naruto who happened to be real. Nice strategy, Genin. I'll give you credit, you're the only one here not out cold who should even be a ninja, but I'm afraid that things end here and now. He rapidly did snake, tiger, ox, dragon, rat and dog, before his hand glowed gold. Hidden Sealing Jutsu. Pawa Fuyo Shiru. Ketsueki no Seigen no Kopi. He harshly slammed his hand into Naruto's stomach, causing the boy's eyes to grow wide, before he fell unconscious, the clones poofing away with shocked expressions as well. It was at this point that Kakashi managed to force himself up. Summoning Jutsu. Kakashi quickly hit the ground and summoned his Ninken pack, who quickly charged at the injured ninja, with plans of ripping flesh. Sorry, copy ninja, but I have other places to be. The ninja was about to be bit by Bull, before he substituted with a random stick. Kakashi would have pursued him, but he was too injured to do so, so he leaned on Tazuna for support, as the old man carried the surprisingly light blonde, while he left his dogs to drag the disgraces. End flashback. Kakashi had confined the two others in their rooms as soon as they arrived at Tezuna's house, the doors and windows sealed. Kakashi had never seen something so disgraceful. Not only had both put him and their client at risk from the beast wave palm, Sasuke had actually attacked Naruto or his clones anyhow. That was so going on the report, and straight to the Hokage so the old bats didn't get to intercept it. But what was that jutsu the man used on Naruto, anyway? Even this master of 1000 jutsu had no clue. In the seal of the Kyuubi, the great Kyuubi, the greatest of the Biju or tailed beast, was in a bad mood, growling from behind her sealed cage. Of course, being sealed away in some annoying brat, your power being stolen for some two-wit idiot's use, can make you rather cross. But this boy, he was worse than any of the Fox's previous hosts, for a simple reason. The Biju, in the beginning, were genderless monsters. They were neither male nor female. But based on whom they were sealed into at first, their genders were determined. Shukaku, the Hachibi and the Yanbi became male, for example, while the Nibi and the Nanbi, as well as herself, became female. Yes, the fearsome, nine-tailed fox, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, was female. Shocking, isn't it? Hell, the only reason she would go on rampages, with tidal waves, earthquakes and mariachi music, was because she was having periods. But being stuck in a boy, it was maddening. Totally different thought process, for one thing, and every time he looked at a girl with a blush, the poor critter felt like a lesbian. Add to it that stupid jutsu that the boy had created, and she was almost contemplating destroying the brat once she had a chance. Fading away for a time would almost be worth it. But what puzzled the Kyuubi, other than why the male she was trapped in somehow managed to be dumber than the Gobi after devouring a tank of wine and blood, a sight still laughed at in the Biju 1000-year reunion parties, was what that strange ninja used on the boy. It had done massive damage to his genetic structure, which her powers were siphoned off to heal. Damn the Yondiemi. Hard to believe the Kitsune found the guy attractive, or was that just for being stuck in Kushina for so long? Though, she still had a picture of the Shodai Hokage somewhere in her cell. Speaking of, for some reason, a strange scent, similar to the Shodai's, was starting to fill her cell, for odd reasons, but she could also detect a much fouler scent, and others she didn't recognize. Of course, then there was the new seal, that was sitting on a large column of marble right in front of her, showing a giant orange N, which under it was a U of a lighter shade, and going through the middle of them both in the background of it was something that looked sort of like her tail. There were kanji on the seal's various parts, multiple different pairs of them. She'd read them, if only foxes could read, or count really. The boy must be rubbing off on her, but she was definitely sure there were less than a dozen of them, for some reason. Were the scents coming from there? Forest in land of wave. Kakashi was grinning to himself. Naruto was back up and running once again. The copy nin still had no idea what sort of jutsu the kid was hit with, but he was up and running again, thanks to his tenant of course. Then, of course, Sasuke, who he had to free for his new brand of training, or torture actually for the two disgraces, had to try to stab the kid with a kunai while he was brushing his teeth after a shower. Luckily it appeared Naruto was used to cold showers and Sasuke didn't have enough steam to succeed in a stealth approach. The idiot was so going to get it when they got back, civilian council and the bats be damned, but this training should be tough enough. For you see, over the breakfast table, Kakashi had brought up a point. The hunter nin's method of killing Zabuza was off, which led to a scary possibility the maniac was still alive. So, thus the training, or for Sasuke and his pet pink Pomeranian, torture. Okay, today's training is tree climbing. Humph, what are we, monkeys? And Uchiha doesn't climb trees like some common primate. Sasuke smirked, somehow ignoring the threats from Kakashi. Yeah, that was the Baka's job. Sasuke-kun is way too cool for it. Sakura chirped in. Naruto looked sadly down on the ground. Kakashi had to restrain himself from setting the girl on fire, too much paperwork. Actually, you will be climbing. Kakashi smirked, as he jumped onto the tree and commenced to scale up its trunk, backwards, with only his feet, without your hands. Cool. Naruto smiled. Quite, and because of your teammates' actions, Naruto, they had to do it on their own, without any assistance. Summoning jutsu. The smirking Kakashi summoned his pack of ninkin dogs. Every time they fall to the ground, or stay on the ground, my pals will give them a reason to get back up. The dogs almost appeared to be grinning. Hey, I am an Uchiha, how dare you train Adobe instead of me? Because you put your injured sensei and more importantly, your client, in danger from the Rouge Ninja's attack, while Naruto used his own clone to block the attack. You also attacked his clones with a fireball jutsu. Now boys, I think those two need some motivation. Kakashi snapped his fingers as the dogs barked loudly. Sakura decided to try and stand up for the two of them. Don't you even think about sending those mutts after Sasuke-kun. My mother is on the council, she'll send you to the X. Grr. The tanned furred dog named Guriko made a few dog-style hand signs, before a burst of pebbles from the ground flew and struck Sakura in her overly large forehead, causing her to yelp and jump into the tree's closet branch, rubbing her injured head. Bull and Pakun then grinned, the pug and his bulldog ride doing hand signs. Bark. Bull stepped back, before a large sonic bark of lightning flew at the refusing Sasuke. Dog-style fire release. Yip Ember. Pakun snorted, dozens of small sparks flew from his nose. The sparks met the thunder bark before combining with the thunder, creating a larger sonic bark that was filled with exploding lights like fireworks. Dog-style fire release. Firework howl. Pakun smirked as the blast hit Sasuke, sending him halfway up the tree, only for his head to smash through the wood like some dart. Ha, take that Teme. Naruto laughed, as did Kakashi. I hope that knocked some sense into them. Well, come on Naruto, let's train somewhere else. Oh, by the way, try to mark your high points. Pakun send word if they cheat. Gotcha Kakashi-sama. Pakun smirked. Later at Tazuna's house. Today was a rewarding day, for Kakashi and Naruto that is. The two, sitting around the fire late at night with a cup of hot chocolate, something Naruto seemed to quickly take to. Kakashi heard that Gato imported them from a port town in the land of hot water. Kakashi decided to get some next time they went on a mission around there. Kakashi smiled as he observed his current favorite student sip his drink. Kakashi not only got to see his two problem students utterly embarrassed in such a fashion, but was also able to teach Naruto a great deal. Kakashi was starting to get the big picture. Naruto was a kinetic learner, so he learned things by doing, not with reading on it like Sakura did. He also had shadow clones, and with them was able to learn at an astonishing rate. With hundreds of clones, he was quickly able to scale the trees to their halfway point, and his last climb had set him up to the top of the tree. He was saddened to hear, however, that Sakura had matched that an hour later and Sasuke 15 minutes afterwards. Though he was happy to see that they elected to skip dinner, apparently they were covered in burn marks, bruises, bite marks and smelled like dog piss. Naruto-san, Kakashi spoke up, politely respecting his star pupil, while back in Konoha, Homura, Kaharu and Mrs. Haruno appeared to be sweating in their sleep, like they were having some sort of nightmare. His student looked up from his drink at his masked sensei. Yeah, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi looked serious. You're going to have to be careful with your jutsu from now on, Kakashi commented. How come, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto was alarmed. Did he have to stop with his shadow clones? As you know, I fear that Zabuza is still alive, and that most likely, the hunter Nin is with him. If that is true, and if Sasuke continues his trend of arrogance, it is likely that he will fight more than he can chew, and enter a life and death situation. I'm all for him getting beaten into a corner like that, maybe give him some humility, but if he does, his Sharingan could activate. Wait, you mean the whole, copy jutsu thing? Naruto said, starting to get it. Are you saying he might steal my patented jutsu? Kakashi groaned. You had that thing patented, Naruto smiled. Yeah, apparently Oji-san thought it would be useful for seduction missions, whatever those are, Naruto shrugged. Kakashi was now sighing. Worse than that, your shadow clone jutsu. I'm going to have to watch it too, but if he gets his Sharingan up and running, he could start trying to gain jutsu that way, but the fact is, he'll go overboard with it, just to surpass you, lose all his chakra, and die, and you will be blamed for it by the council. Kakashi finished. Naruto smirked. So, all I have to do is try to keep the Teme from overdoing it, and my shadow clones are free range. Until I can apply the Sharingan proofing seal to you, yes. In the scroll of sealing was a seal made by the ancient Senju that made one's jutsu safe from the theft of the Sharingan. With the competition between the two genin, that jutsu could be their savior. What about you? You have 1000 jutsu he could steal, Naruto asked concerned. I can't seal it onto myself. It will wreck my Sharingan, though unlike you, I can be subtle in my jutsu. Hey, I can avoid half the village's Chunin force for over 2 hours. I call that subtle, Datbayo. And your jutsu? I guess you have a point there. Several days later, after several days of guarding the bridge builder, one emotional clash between Naruto and the builder's grandson, more dog bites and a lot of remedial taijutsu, Naruto's taijutsu had rapidly improved, to a point he could hold out against Kakashi in it, for 5 minutes anyway, with the Icha in hand. Even the others were improving, though Kakashi had them spar alone, with several dogs watching them. Anyway, Naruto was taking a break from shadow clone training, while Kakashi took watch over at the bridge. However, as he relaxed, he failed to notice a black-haired youth in a pink kimono approach him from the woods, with a basket filled with herbs. He's one of the ones guarding the bridge builder, the person thought. Perhaps, I should take him out now, 1 foot to the neck ought to do it. It was at that point that said boy jumped up in surprise, with a kunai in hand. Who's there? I'm a ninja, and I'm armed. Oh, hey there. Naruto rubbed the back of his head nervously. The stranger got a look at him. The orange-wearing weirdo stuck out like a thumb, pretty much anywhere. Strange garb for a stealthy ninja, though then again Zabuza, the stranger's savior, carried a giant butcher knife around. Hello, the stranger smiled. The boy, Naruto blushed. Oh, hey there. The name's Naruto, of Konohagakure. My name's Haku, I live around here, and I'm looking for herbs. The person smiled. Herbs? What do you need a bunch of weeds for? The person smiled. I have an important person, he's in need of healing, and so I decided to look for some. The strange person named Haku, who Naruto sort of couldn't tell the gender of, continued to forage in the grassy clearing for seemingly random herbs. An important person? Naruto asked. Haku continued to forage. Of course, don't you have any? Naruto smiled. Of course, there are Iruka-sensei, Oji-san, Tuchi-sama, Ayame-chan, and Kakashi-sensei. Naruto stood up. Haku couldn't help but smiled. You seem to care about a lot of people. That's good, for you see, they say you can only be your strongest if you're protecting someone precious to you. There is a saying around here. Haku smiled, before getting up and leaving. Naruto looked up into the clouds. Yeah, and that's why I want to be Hokage. The tall, fearsome, and most horrifying of all, eyebrowless Zabuza, of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, rolled his shoulders, with the concurring pop. His assistant, the young Haku, smiled. You're feeling better, Zabuza-sama? Haku asked. If anything could be seen under Zabuza's mask over his mouth, he might actually be smiling. Yes, Haku-chan, I am. Zabuza had found the young Haku during a mission many years ago, before his attempted coup against the Yondiami Mizukage. While she, yes his companion was female, hadn't taken part, she agreed to leave with him, and has since followed him on his mission, to get enough money and physical power to help his old friend. Truth was Zabuza was old friends with Yagura, the Yondiami Mizukage and Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, the 3-tailed turtle. Back in his childhood, they had been friends. Both were misunderstood orphans, Zabuza just a few years older than Yagura. In fact, the reason he slaughtered an entire graduation class, besides to prove that an orphan with self-training was good enough to be a Mizu ninja, but also to spare Yagura the fate of fighting your own comrades. Because of everyone's hatred for him, he would have been gang-attacked, and if the 3 tails was unleashed. Zabuza had also known Utakata, the Rokubi Jinchuriki. Back in the day they had fought together. Once he, Utakata and Yagura had single-handedly defeated an entire army of shinobi from the Land of Frost during the Third Shinobi World War. However, with Zabuza's help, Yagura was able to figure out how to control the Sanbi, because of a forgotten Kekai Jinkai his clan had. A dujutsu that caused Yagura's distinct purple eyes, which enabled him to control the 3 tails. He hadn't been able to activate it, and the Sanbi didn't exactly help, until Zabuza managed to help him. Afterwards, Yagura was quickly able to become the Yondiami Mizukage at age 15, and Zabuza one of the legendary swordsmen to help his friend maintain power. Then, his friend began suffering from nightmares, all of which had a similar pattern, red eyes with Tomo. These dreams stirred the three tails, causing the poor Cage horrid nightmares and hallucinations. Then, there was the Kiri Council. Like Konoha, the council had a civilian side, and they were petrified of Kekkei Genkei. This, rather absurd fear resulted in a war in Mizu decades ago, that they kept alive in the civilians of the Land of Water via propaganda, as well as the ninja villages. That's why clans like the Yuki that Haku hailed from had to go into hiding. The last time he had seen Yagura, he had just had one of his Anbu, a man named Ao, do some spying on the civilian council with his stolen Byakugan eye, and had made a startling discovery. They were paying a mysterious group, with strange black robes covered in red clouds, to influence the Mizukage with a mysterious genjutsu, causing the unrest of the beast inside of him, that they were able to use as a sign of insanity to keep Yagura from interfering with the bloodline purges that were devastating the local ninja. These ninja, one who had a hunched back and a strange hat, and the other with long blonde hair and an obnoxious voice, never said who they brought in, but they were definitely responsible. So, Yagura gathered Ao, one of the top jonin in the village named Mei Terumi, a rather attractive redhead with 2 Kekkei Genkei, and himself, and devised a plan. Yagura knew that dramatic action had to be done, and knowing his name would be blackened from the council's action regardless, asked his old friend to stage a coup to kill the civilian council, while Ao and Mei unsealed the three tails and released it, to stop the council for getting their hands on it for their own use. However, he did leave a few requests. One, that no matter what, he protected the young Haku, who he began to see like his own daughter. She was the last of her clan, as far as he could tell, and didn't deserve what was happening here. The second was to look for his distant cousin, Yukimaru. He had heard he had vanished, picked up by the S-class Sanin, Orochimaru of the Leaf Village, and Yagura was fearful that he could extort the young boy's power for his own use. So, while Zabuza managed to kill about half the civilian council and a few corrupt members of the shinobi council, along with some guy who sold cabbages who assaulted Yagura with them when he was a kid, failed in a complete coup and fled the village with Haku, though never finding Yukimaru, Ao and Mei managed to unseal Yagura and set up a power struggle. Last he heard, Mei was close to becoming the Gondem Mizukage, but he couldn't return yet, not until he found Yukimaru and destroyed the one who ruined his friend. "Penny for your thoughts, Zabuza-san?" a voice spoke up. Startled, Zabuza drew his sword as Haku drew out a dozen or so senbon. There, standing at the door, was the unknown shinobi who attacked and sealed Naruto. "Who are you?" Zabuza demanded. "Answer and I might not gut you." "That, Zabuza-san, I can't do, but I do have information you might be interested in." Zabuza would have rose an eyebrow, if he had any. "Yeah, get on with it," the stranger smiled. "I heard about your bond with the Yondiemi, your friend I believe. I have information about his controller. Care to ask?" Zabuza growled. "What do you know?" The stranger smiled under his disguise. "His controller has the Sharingan. His name is Uchiha Madara." Haku looked confused. "Zabuza-sama, from what I read, that man must be ancient. He co-founded Konohagakure no Sato, and how can he be alive?" The stranger shrugged. "How does Zabuza-san lack eyebrows, or how did Yagura Dono hold a giant turtle inside of him? Is anything truly impossible, with enough work that closed the argument. Yes, Madara Teme has many plans, but amongst them is the rebuilding of the Uchiha clan to serve him. However, including himself, there are 3 Uchiha left in the world, and both he and Uchiha Itachi of Akatsuki are sterile. Madara from the techniques he extends his life with, and Itachi is sterile from the sickness that's consuming him, so that leaves only one Uchiha left in the world. Uchiha Sasuke, currently guarding the bridge builder." Zabuza and Haku's eyes were wide open. "So, if we kill the brat, that Teme will be screwed, no clan for him?" Zabuza grinned evilly under his mask. The stranger stayed unmoving. "Or, you could capture him, and force Madara to come out in the open, and then take him on your own." Zabuza turned towards his young ward, daughter in all but law or blood. "Haku-chan, change of plans, ignore the bridge builder, capture the Uchiha while I occupy the copy Nin." Haku nodded. "Yes, Zabuza-sama." The stranger opened the window as if to jump out, but left with one more thing. "If you see a blonde-haired kid with whisker marks, try not to kill him. You'll only regret it." Wave Country Bridge construction site sometime later. Kakashi sighed. Here he was, stuck on a bridge, either having to work or watch the duo while they muttered darkly and glare at him. Naruto was on house watching duty. The poor kid was exhausted for taking the entire watch yesterday so Kakashi could make sure the duo had learnt something, without dogs persuading them. So here he was, keeping tabs on Duckhead and Howler Pinky. He hoped at least they'd fall off the bridge. Of course, it had to be something else. "Hey, lazy bones, you and your squirts could help, you know," Tazuna grumbled. Kakashi sighed. "Yes, Tazuna-san, shadow clone jutsu." A second Kakashi appeared next to the original and was sent out to work. He smirked at his students. "You two follow him," his students groaned, but seeing as though this guy could re-summon the devils, or dogs as they were actually, they decided to do it, reluctantly, while all the time, planning some way to deal with the ninja dogs. Though, while engrossed in their work, or in the only lazy bum's case, his Icha-Icha, mist had begun to creep across the bridge. Meanwhile at Tazuna's house, "What, are you saying that they already left to attack the bridge?" Naruto demanded towards the bound samurai. The poor blonde-haired kid, having been allowed to sleep in by Kakashi, woke up to the house being broken into by two samurai thugs hired by Gato. Though, in combination with Inari, the bridge builder's grandson, the two punks were tied up, and being interrogated by Naruto and Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter, via a frying pan. Smack. "Ow, bye." Naruto kicked the swearing mercenary in the nuts. "Watch it, there's a kid here, now what was this about attacking the bridge?" The other hired gun smirked. "You're too late, kid, Zabuza's already there, tearing apart your pathetic team," and the old man, Tsunami, smacked him with the frying pan. Smack. "Grandpa," Inari gasped. Naruto glared at the two. "He can kill my teammates, world would be better without them, but Kakashi-sensei beat Zabuza once, he can do it again. He won't allow Tazuna-sama to die. Tsunami-san, Inari-kun, you can hold these guys, right?" Inari grinned evilly as he nodded. Naruto smirked. He was starting to like the kid. Meanwhile back on the bridge. "Give it up, Zabuza," Kakashi grunted, as he held back the great swordsman using a kunai. Sakura, with her own kunai in hand, was guarding Tazuna while shivering. Meanwhile Sasuke had been trapped by the false hunter Nin in some sort of ice mirror. The false hunter ninja was amazing, being able to use one-handed hand signs, and add to it the rare ice release Kekai Genkei, and this ninja was one skilled piece of work. If they were loyal to the village, that's the type of ninja who could have become Mizukage. "You won't get the bridge builder." Disturbingly, Zabuza was laughing. The laugh actually seemed to have humor behind it, as it ranged out across the battlefield. He smirked. "Kakashi, Kakashi, Kakashi, I'm not after the bridge builder, the Uchiha is my target now. Haku will defeat him and I will defeat you and the pink-haired waste of air over there. And I think I'll leave the old geezer be. Never liked that Gato guy much anyway." One certain pink-haired waste of space was now fuming. "Leave Sasuke-kun alone, you jerk, tell your butt buddy over there to get lost and get straight." Sakura yelled. Zabuza growled at the insult, his anger giving him leverage over Kakashi's blade. One could even see an inflated vein, or anime tick-off mark, on his head. "Listen here you brat, you pathetic, talentless cunt, Haku is like my daughter, and a better kunoichi than you ever will be, and if you call her that again, I will mount your head on my fireplace, along with that jerk who damned my best friend, and use it as a dartboard." To add insult to injury, he twisted his blade, knocked the kunai out of Kakashi's grip and sent the copy nin stumbling back. While not in a way to allow an easy decapitation, Zabuza instead tossed the kunai at the girl, who blocked it with her own kunai, but the blade began to spin in the air and thumped her in the large forehead, knocking her out with a concussion. "Sasuke-kun," she mumbled in her out-cold state. Zabuza growled. That type of deadweight always bit the dust in the final exams, at least Kiri was safe from that kind of ninja. He spat at the ground near Sakura. "Zabuza-san," Kakashi said with odd politeness. Perhaps the thought of losing them caused the copy nin to respect the demon of the mist a bit more. "As much as I would like to be free of the two imps, I would also like to keep the council for executing me for the death. The Uchiha is the pet of the Elder and Civilian Council, whose most obnoxious member is the Pinky's mother, so I have to keep them safe. While no one said I had to teach them anything really, so, water release. Dragon bullet technique." A water dragon rose, aided by the mist and the sea, and flew at the missing nin, who did the hand signs serpent, boar and slammed his hand to the ground. You can't win Kakashi, water release, turtle barrier. A huge turtle, the shape of the Sanbi in miniature, rose up from the ground and blocked the attack, sending a cascading wall of water into the air. Now Kakashi had lost the man again, thanks to the hidden mist jutsu in the air. Fire release, night illumination. Kakashi did a tiger seal followed by a dog, as a ring of fire flew from his hands and briefly illuminated a flash of metal. Zabuza no doubt trying the silent killing technique again. The two enemy ninja took notice of one another's moves and called out at once after several hand signs. Water style. Great waterfall technique. Two huge waves of water struck them both as the battle raged on between Haku and Sasuke, the last youth of the Uchiha and his fire jutsu versus the last remnant of the Yuki clan and her ice mastery. He was surrounded by the mirrors with Haku warping from mirror to mirror while tossing hundreds of senbon into the last Uchiha, who now resembled a rather large hedgehog. However, the Uchiha had several advantages. First of all, the mirror jutsu she was using consumed a mad amount of chakra. Despite several sessions of specialized training with Zabuza, she didn't have the reserves to do this for much longer. In a ground fight, she'd be in range for his fire jutsu and that new Sharingan he had obtained after the first 50 senbon. Second, she was to take him alive, so she couldn't use lethal force, limiting her jutsu. True, while she hated killing, she had a few jutsu for that from Zabuza. Finally, that Sharingan was tracking her movements. Last time he tossed a kunai during a senbon wave, she had gotten a cut on her upper arm. After a few other attempts of his, he was getting slowly closer, and she was running out of options. Perhaps a change in the flow of battle might help. Doing a few rapid one-handed seals, several ice spikes rose from the ground towards the Uchiha, who easily dodged them. Is that all you got? He boasted, or has my Sharingan, the ultimate Kekai Genkei, made you realize your pathetic existence pales to mine? Haku smirked, as she had him where she wanted him, as she flew from an ice mirror and sent a dozen senbon straight at his unguarded back. But then his damn Sharingan kicked in. Fool, that isn't even worth copying. Haku shook her head. He couldn't copy it anyway if he tried. Fire release. Great fireball technique. A huge fireball was blasted through the senbon, melting them before hitting Haku, knocking her back. She rolled on the ground, as the flames burned a hole through the battle robes, showing an ice-colored bra underneath. Sasuke smirked. What, you're a girl? No wonder you're so weak, but I'll cut you a deal. Become one of my bitches and help me revive my clan, and I'll let you live. Haku groaned. No way in hell I'd do that, you duck ass, Haku said as she dissolved into water. Sasuke's eyes went wide. That was a water clone. He cursed himself for not being able to copy it, before he heard creeping ice, as an ice spike flew straight at him, with a victorious Haku smiling under her battle mask. Game over. Hey, Zabuza was vague in his orders. A guy didn't need an arm to revive a clan, did he? He could be still used as bait. But then, the orange ninja with blonde hair jumped down from above. And the hero is here, Dat Bayo. It's him, Haku commented. Perhaps he'd be an actually decent employee. Shadow. Naruto began before noticing Sasuke's Sharingan. That's it, Dobi, give me that jutsu of yours, Sasuke smugly thought. He groaned, before stopping his jutsu and taking the ice spike himself right through the stomach, only narrowly avoiding the heart and lungs. Naruto. Kakashi gasped from outside the battlefield, before two water dragon bullets collided once more. Zabuza also commented on the battle. Oh no, that was off for Haku, that Uchiha must have said something really bad. Have to remember to give him a little bit of torture once we have him. Now to take care of you, Kakashi. Naruto's shout of pain soon filled the air. Ah, he yelled out. Sasuke smirked. This was the only thing that idiot was good for, a shield to protect his betters. Haku stared at him. Why would you take that attack for this? Stain on humanity? Haku asked. Retracting the ice spike, its frigidity barely avoided granting hypothermia, but blood loss was still occurring. Naruto groaned out. I said it, to this girl I met, and I'll say it again, I fight for my precious people. And one of them is my Oji-san, the Sandame Hokage, told me, as did Kakashi-sensei, that no matter how much of a stuck-up ass your teammates may be, you can't abandon them. If I was to let Sasuke die like this, I'd be worse than him, as those who abandon their team are lower than trash. Meanwhile, inside the seal. Finally, the time had come. The little Baka she was sealed in had gotten himself into near mortal peril. Time for her, the Kyuubi, to save him and perhaps try to take control. She was in the mood for some destruction or tacos, depending on what came first. However, as she let a stream of her chakra out to heal her host, she noticed some of it was being diverted, straight into that strange seal. What in Kami? The seal briefly began to glow orange, or at least in a portion of it, where it kanji glowed brightly, the kanji for storm. Back to reality. An orange-red glow began forming around Naruto, as his wound began to heal. The air began rippling with power, shaking the bridge slightly. Naruto then began forming tiger, dog, serpent and dragon. Storm release. Great twister. A huge twister of wind and lightning formed from Naruto, before expanding and crossing the field of battle, as Haku and Sasuke were pulled into its winds. What? Power? Haku gasped. How can the Dobi? And why can't I copy it? Kakashi was wide-eyed, as were Tazuna and Zabuza. Haku, my bridge. Kakashi was the most shocked of all. That's a Kumo Kekai Genkai, how is that possible? Bridge. Wave country. As the twister dissolved from the stone-adorned bridge, Zabuza and Kakashi found themselves knocked to the ground, as were Haku, Tazuna and Sasuke. Sasuke was unconscious, Tazuna was moaning about his back, and Kakashi and Haku were unable to move. Only Zabuza was able to push himself up. Wait, you're that girl from before, Naruto gasped. Haku's mask had shattered, revealing her face. Yes, I am, she said meekly. How would this guy act like this? She nearly killed him. She mentally prepared herself for the emotional pain, that never came. Oh my god, you are so awesome. I can't believe how cool you were in thrashing that Teme around. He looks like a giant hedgehog. You've got to teach me how to do that. He laughed. Haku blushed, before speaking. I'm flattered, but I created the senbon I use via my Kekai Genkai, and you can't teach, or copy that. She glared at said duck hedgehog. But you were the most impressive, Naruto-san. You somehow managed to create a massive twister with some sort of Kekai Genkai. Naruto looked confused. Huh? That giant twister, how did you create it, and where did you get the hand signs? Kakashi grunted. Naruto shrugged. To be honest, I have no idea. The conscious fellow's sweat dropped. He's definitely unpredictable, Kakashi sighed. This was definitely going to be a lot of paperwork back in Konoha. Please tell me that there isn't a hole in my bridge, Tazuna groaned. Naruto took a look at the twister site. The only thing noticeable was a lot of melted water, some Teme blood, a scorch mark, and small pothole. No, just a minor pothole, Tazuna cursed. Guess it could have been worse, but you better put some of those clones of yours on the job. My workers are unconscious, thanks to no brows over here. Don't make me kill you. And your teammate is out cold for now, so. I'm afraid, bridge builder, that pothole is the least of your trouble now, a voice said. Turning around, Naruto and Zabuza spotted a short man in a brown business suit, with an army of 200 assorted thugs and the occasional Yahoo. Gatu, Zabuza growled. The short man, the island's fiend, Gatu, grinned like a Cheshire cat. Ah, Zabuza-san, so you've decided to ignore my orders for the bridge builder? Too bad, I was hoping to let you kill him and those leaf nins, then kill you and collect the bounties on you and the copy nin, and be on my way. Yeah, like these fools you hired could kill me, or anyone here. Hell, the pinky could beat your jokes of an army. The jokes growled at the insult Zabuza had thrown at them. Gatu just smiled coldly. Ah, the humor of the cornered man. Boys, destroy the bridge builder and the traitor. Whoever takes him out gets his ice bitch, and who takes the bridge builder gets the pink one. The man smirked cruelly. Naruto looked back towards Kakashi. Can't we just toss her at them? He shook his head, it would after all be too much paperwork. Well then boy, you're with me. Seeing as I have no more reason to take the geezer's neck, and Haku's injured, I'll just kill these clowns and be on my way, Naruto smirked. Need some help with that, after all, protecting Tazuna is my mission, and protecting my sensei, or any of my precious people, is my duty, as is sadly my team as well, though if they get maimed I guess it couldn't hurt. Zabuza glanced at him. This kid was a lot like Yagura. If he squinted, he could almost see an image of his late friend overlapping the young kid, and could almost hear their voices as one. To be Hokage, Mizukage, that's my dream, then everyone will have to recognize me, and I'll be able to protect my friends. Zabuza smiled as he hoisted his massive sword. Let's do it, Tazuna then wailed. Don't break my bridge, no matter what you do. The two ninja then charged at the armed horde. Naruto blocked a sword slice with a sharp kunai, before creating a dozen shadow clones, who charged into the armed mob with more kunai at the ready. Naruto then jumped into the air before yelling, "Storm release, Great Twister." Now airborne, the tip of the storm just missed the bridge road and thus the mob was sucked up and spewed out randomly, hitting the ground with random snaps of broken necks and other bones. Haku and the others must have been lucky to escape so easily from the storm, or was it just his bad luck that Sasuke did? Heads up Genin, water release, great waterfall technique. A giant wave formed from the accumulated water in the air as the huge wave swamped the battlefield, wiping away rogues, while the shadow clones were able to avoid the attack. Kakashi sighed, and Haku gave him a curious look. Is it wrong to say that Naruto and your sensei over there work better as a team than my genin? Haku laughed. Wait, they're actually a team? Back to the fight, Zabuza just cleaved a few swordsmen clean through, before he groaned. Some punk just managed to stab him with several kunai, in the back. Zabuza-san. A clone gasped before a rouge destroyed it. Haku gasped. Zabuza-sama. Haku cried she was unable to protect her master. She was failing as a tool, her important person was probably fatally injured. URG, I'm sorry. Yagura-sama. Mei-chan. Ao-san. Zabuza gasped for air. But, I'm not going down alone. He charged blindly, ignoring more accumulating injuries, as he flew straight at the slowly retreating Gato. Zabuza, spotting him, yelled out a battle cry and tossed his blade, the great blade going straight into Gato, knocking both it and the man into the churning sea below, definitely dead. Naruto, after his shadow clones and twisters had finished off the last of the men, rushed to the downed man. Zabuza-san, he gasped. The eyebrow-less man looked at the boy and smiled. This boy was again starting to look like Yagura, or was his mind playing tricks on him? Boy! Bring me to Haku-chan, please. Naruto had tears in his eyes, as he dragged the slowly dying man to his daughter. He lowered him next to her, as Haku struggled up. Zabuza-sama. Zabuza looked at her. Please don't die. You're my special person, my reason to live, my Two-san. She cried. Zabuza raised his hand, and held it to Haku's cheek. Haku-chan, I was glad to meet you. It was nice to have a family of some kind. I couldn't have stuck to my and Yagura-sama's plan without you. This boy, he's a lot like Yagura. He turned to the boy and Kakashi. He has a biju in him, doesn't he? Just like my friend, the Yondiami Mizukage. Naruto and Kakashi looked alarmed, Kakashi's regular eye briefly darting towards the unconscious failures of his. So, it's a secret then. Perhaps that was better than it being known. Let me guess, it's the Kyuubi. Don't answer, it's evident on your face. Zabuza smiled under his ripped mask. Kid, your dreams, don't give up on them, no matter what. Yagura had less than you did, in a town that made Konoha look like a flower field, but he still became a cage, and I believe, you can too, he smiled. Haku, I'd give you my blade, but it's kind of underwater, my bad. Haku was crying as Zabuza chuckled. But, no matter, you were never a killer anyway, you don't need a sword. You just need a strong friend. Kakashi-san, I wish to ask you a favor. The copy nin looked over to the dying mist swordsman. Take Haku with you to Konoha. Take her, under your wing, with this pathetic team of yours. Haku, like you stayed with me, I ask that you stay with whatever your name was. Naruto sniffled with tears. Uzumaki Naruto. Yes, stay with Naruto-san, help him become Hokage, but boy, beware of your teammate. His clan has the power to control containers. One did so to Yagura, and he'll do it to you. Zabuza collapsed, as Haku let out a flood of tears. Zabuza-sama. Later in the Hokage's office, Konoha No. Sato. With the death of Gato by the hands of the late missing nin, Momoichi Zabuza, things are looking up in the Wave Country now. The civilians ransacked his mansion, and now have all the money he stole from them, as well as interest. Trade is booming, no doubt and thanks to the new, great Naruto bridge. Kakashi was giving his report to the Sandame, with Naruto and Haku, now with a new leaf high 8, behind him. Wait, they named the bridge after me? Naruto said exited, before noticing Haku. It should have been the Great Zabuza Bridge, Kakashi smiled. Naruto, it was you who finished the bridge via shadow clones. While a certain duckhead was stuck at the house. As it was, they named the wave entrance to the bridge the Zabuza Gate, and the fire entrance the Kaisa Gate. Naruto noticed Haku smile sadly at this. Naruto-kun, Kakashi-san. Well done. The Hokage smiled as he blew from his pipe. You both went above and beyond the mission, which was evolved from a C rank to an A rank. I've already sent a bonus, along with your original pay straight to both of your accounts. Naruto's account was guarded by one of the Hokage's oldest friends in the bank, one who knew about Naruto's father. The man was firmly entrenched when it came to the vault. In his time he stopped countless attempts of civilians and ninja to take Naruto's cash for either spite or to repay the damage the Kyuubi left. And you, Haku-san, I've already sent the non-bonus payments of both Haruno Sakura and Uchiha Sasuke, whose pay was deducted due to their crimes. As well their names being removed from the mission records on this mission, as well as a large fine deducted from their family accounts sent to Naruto's and Kakashi's accounts, and the both of them placed on a full week of the most horrible D-ranked missions, including catching Tora, cleaning the public restrooms and removing massive bunions from Choji's grandmother's feet. He tried to get them sent back to the academy, but the civilian council and elder council stood firmly against it, though he oddly got Danzo's support. Into a new account in your name that I set up. That should be well enough to help get you started, before you take on more missions with Team 7. However, there is the matter of the bingo book price for Zabuza. Send it to the people in Wave, Haku said sadly. I can't use that kind of money. Naruto placed a hand on her shoulders as Haku blushed. Haku, you okay? You kind of look like you have a fever or something. Kakashi smiled at Naruto's question. The kid was more concerned in how Haku was feeling, instead of trying to get a rebound chick. Okay, I understand, the Hokage smiled. Kakashi will give you elemental training while the rest of your team, as loosely as I can apply that term, is done with their punishment. Naruto-kun, I hope you don't mind, but I was unable to secure housing for Haku-san at the moment, so she'll have to stay with you. That was all that could be said before Haku fainted. While somewhere in town, a pale-eyed heiress suddenly felt someone was ripping her off somehow. Haku-san, Haku-san. Naruto shook her before looking around at the older men. They smiled. I believe Haku-san is tired, why don't you take her to your home? Naruto nodded vigorously before taking the unconscious girl with him out of the room. Now the old Hokage turned towards Kakashi. Kakashi, I also read in your written report about Naruto's sudden ability to use the Kumo Kekkai Genkai, storm release, and the mysterious attacker, and I believe I may have an idea of what the attack was. I have never seen it myself, but it's an ancient technique from years back. It's a seal that transfers Kekkai Genkai. As you may or may not know, Kekkai Genkai originated as genetic mutations or as an advanced chakra skill, found in 1 out of 1,000 shinobi. However, these were not something that could be passed on. Much like Tenzo is not able to pass on his wood release Orochimaru grafted onto him, or you and your Sharingan. However, this jutsu would pass the traits to another person, and grafted it into their DNA in a way that allowed for genetic passing of the traits. However, your description may describe something else, an evolved version of the technique for passing multiple Kekkai Genkai, but as to the attacker, I have no leads. At the same time, the sheer amount of genetic alteration that Seal must have done to Naruto would kill any regular person? What about that Hiriko guy, who rumor says is preparing a way to obtain multiple ones? Perhaps he has. And why would he give them to a leaf nin? He fled the village when the 9 Tails was announced, he's terrified of it. No way in hell would he give that sort of power to Naruto. So, thus the attacker and his motives remain unknown. Meanwhile at a hill in Wave, the wooded hill, sitting with a view of the sea, with a simple tombstone that simply read, Momoichi Zabuza. The stranger appeared to be paying his respects. He sighed. This changes my plan. Your apprentice by going with our young Jinchuriki, alters my plans, but not in a negative way. Zabuza, you died a hero. I hope Kami sees that. He drew a scroll, and opened it, revealing a very thin transparent veil of some sort. Sealing style. undisturbed rest of the dead. The stranger covered the tomb with the veil not detectable by chakra or the human eye. However, the grave glowed as the seal took effect. Wood release. Rise of the red fern. The stranger did a single dog hand sign, as a red fern formed next to the grave. He chuckled. With the rejects, outside of Konoha public bathroom. How dare they make an Uchiha clean filth from mere commoners? This is the sort of thing the Dobi and his ice bitch should be doing, not me. Sasuke declared angrily. Of course, the Anbu, who was wearing a duck mask, had been put in charge of watching them by the Sandame, and so didn't respond. Best not give the idiot any satisfaction. However, the two were refusing to enter the bathroom, stubbornly crossing their arms looking away. This is a job for the Dobi and his new ice bitch, not for me, the last Uchiha. Yeah, Sasuke-kun is better than this. They continued to rant, until the bathroom's occupant, Shuza Akamichi, exited. As he spotted the two troublemakers, he got an evil grin on his face. Ah, the two, Genin. I am a Uchiha, idiot. My mother's on the civilian council, so don't you dare treat me like that unless you want your F. The duck Anbu quickly sealed their mouths shut with his hands. The Anbu were the cage's self-selected special operations units. They did their operations covertly and silently, and helped maintain order in the village. Because their missions were covert, they were not on record for either ninja or civilian. Recently, the Sandame had begun renovating the Yondaime's house on the edge of the village. Only accessible from a hidden space-time warp point in the Hokage office, unless you had the key of course. This house was originally supposed to be given to Naruto once he became a Chunin, as well as his heritage. By then, the Sandame had hoped that the young boy would be strong enough for the resulting assassination attempts. This would also help curb down anti-Narutoism. However, two things had changed. The first of them was his new rivalry with Sasuke. Once this became knowledge amongst the populace, there was no doubt that attacks against Naruto would increase, beyond the basic food price overcharging and possible lesson sabotage. While he knew of a few Anbu who already were outspoken against Naruto, the Sandame didn't want to risk one of the boy's guards going turncoat and aiding attackers. The second was the appearance of Haku. Naruto, while no Casanova, still had to share a single bedroom apartment, so a several bedroom house might be more preferable. However, another of the more covert missions of the Anbu was to prevent anyone calling an Akamichi some sort of derogatory remark. Past experience has long taught the dangers of insulting people who could grow to the size of hills. Yes, Akamichi-sama? The large man grinned. Getting those two trapped on this duty may have earned Danzo the hop spring tickets, but this would be worth a paid night of dining for him, his wife and their son, on their friends' tabs of course. As he thought this, Inoichi found himself suddenly shivering and Shikaku suddenly felt glad to be on an A-rank mission. Yes, it is quite convenient, for you see, I just got done sampling a delicious meal at Gasanoyorshi, a new eatery on the west side of town, with a fine fiber and bean casserole, and well. Green mist suddenly began creeping from under the bathroom door. The two idiots then began to try and squirm away from their duty/doom. Quickly, the Anbu shoved them into the bathroom, sealed the door and held the door back as the children began to desperately pound away. Some of the escaped green gas then approached a nearby tree, and the poor plant exploded into bark and dead leaves. Shuza chuckled and hummed merrily as he imagined the buffet awaiting him, as Duck whistled for backup. A snail-masked Anbu jumped down from a nearby building to his call. "Duck, what's the problem? I need you to hold these poor genin in here for a while. I have just received word of a food item at a new eatery that may be a danger towards humanity. Let me out of here, this isn't even fit for Adobe." Sasuke yelled from inside the bathroom, and now the pink-haired fangirl just collapsed. Meanwhile, with the so-called Dobi, Kakashi, Haku and Naruto found themselves at a lake on the outskirts of the Hidden Leaf village, preparing for a lesson while the others were out of the way. "Okay team, today we are going to practice some water release techniques," Kakashi smiled. Naruto raised his hand. "Yes, Naruto? Wait, Kakashi-sensei, since when did I get water release?" Kakashi smiled. "It came with your storm release, Naruto. Kekai Genkai such as storm and ice release come from the genetic combination of two or more elements. For example, storm is a mixture of lightning and water release, while ice is a mixture of wind and water release. Now, I'm focusing on water release, because that is a release we know both of you can use. Haku and Naruto nodded. Zabuza-sama already taught me how to create a water clone, Kakashi-sensei, Haku brought up. Kakashi smiled. True, but because Naruto's shadow clones already filled that niche, I believe that we should try to get something else in, before they get back. Naruto suddenly looked like he recalled something, started fiddling with hand signs slowly. Perhaps we should start with the water prison. I think that Naruto could pull that off nicely with his shadow clones, or perhaps we should. Naruto ended on a bird hand sign. Hope this works. Water release, great waterfall technique. No, Naruto, Kakashi yelled before all three of them were engulfed in a huge tidal wave. Gulping for air, both Haku and Kakashi quickly got back on the surface of the water and obtained balance, but as Naruto rose he just kept blubbering around. Or perhaps Naruto-sama should focus on water walking first, Haku commented at his blubbering form with a blush. Kakashi frowned. True enough, but I don't know if I should be impressed with him for somehow picking up that technique on his own, or somewhat annoyed. The last day before Sasuke and Sakura freedom. After 6 days of trial, error, near drowning and an angry Mrs. Haruno and the two bats demanding the lesson ceased with the foreign kunoichi and the dead last and instead focus on the Uchiha and his pink cheerleader of horror. Once free from the poison ward at the hospital, they were getting shown the great waterfall jutsu. Now, standing on the surface of the lake was Naruto, clad in an orange pair of swimsuit trunks, against Haku, who was in a bluish-white one-piece swimsuit with Kakashi standing on the lake shore. Now that Naruto had finally gotten water walking down, it was time to test how far they had come. Haku was to become a member of Team 7 for the time being, and Kakashi needed to make sure the both of them were ready to go out for any more missions like Wave. Now that both had seals on them, administered by Kakashi himself, to block the Sharingan, their moves were free to go. Let's see how good you are, Naruto-kun, Haku smiled. Naruto sighed, it was either this, or Sama. Naruto began to do several rapid hand signs, for, lightning release, thunderball. A ball of static electricity formed in Naruto's hand, before he tossed it at Haku, overhanded. The ball struck her head on, before she dissolved into water. A water clone, Naruto said surprised. It was then that he noticed the water below him to begin to rapidly bubble. Water release. Explosion. An explosion of air flew from below Naruto, sending him flying into the air as Haku burst to the surface, giggling. Naruto's eyebrow rose slightly, before doing his favorite hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen shadow clones formed from above and all created thunderballs, before tossing them straight at Haku. Ice release. Protective ice dome. A dome of ice formed around Haku, blocking the shadow clone's attacks. Flying from the dome came dozens of ice spikes that quickly pierced the attacking clones, leaving only the original. Not bad. Storm release. Great twister. A huge twister formed on the lake surface, spinning straight towards Haku, destroying her ice dome, but the girl was nowhere to be found. Wait, where did you go? Naruto was looking around confused. Water release. Explosion. Naruto was sent flying into the air once again before exploding into smoke. Haku gasped. A shadow clone. Water release. Great waterfall technique. A surge of water crossed the wave surface, swamping Haku and sending her flying to the shore. Apparently, Naruto had created an extra shadow clone, and used him as a distraction as he prepared the destructive jutsu. Haku then found herself panting on the lake shore, with Naruto lounging beside her. Not bad Haku-chan, not bad at all, Naruto smiled. The girl smiled, it took him long enough to call her that. Not bad yourself, Naruto-kun. Kakashi smiled as he shimmered over towards them. Fine spar today, and tomorrow we begin our first mission as a united team again. Haku and Naruto groaned. Kakashi sighed. I hate them too, but we have to put up with them. Hopefully, it will be something where you guys won't need to kill one another over. What they didn't realize were two things. First of all, they were being watched from on top of a cliff nearby, via the white-eyed, all-seeing Byakugan, by none other than Naruto's admirer, stalker, the blue-haired, blue-eyed Hinata Hyuga. She had a smile on her face after watching the two fight. Amazing Naruto-kun, those jutsu were incredible. I hope I can pull off something just as amazing, she poked her fingers together. She would match Naruto's skill one day, and then earn his heart, though this new girl could be trouble for that plan. Smiling, she decided to ask Kurenai-sensei if she could give her some extra training tomorrow. The other was the mission itself they would get. Team 7 had no idea what they were about to find themselves thrust into. In a misty hideaway in the land of tea, altar room. Locked up in a cage, sitting next to a floor littered in coal, was a large bird. Not just any type of bird, but an ostrich. This ostrich, who had 3 pink ribbons on his neck, was an ostrich that Team 7 had returned home on a mission some time ago. This was Mr. Ostrich. The bird was glaring angrily at his captor, before somehow manifesting a voice, yelled. "What's the big idea, locking me in this cage? Just who do you think you are?" A male voice then laughed. "Oh sorry, my ninja ostrich friend." The bird paled. "Yes. I know about your practice in the ninja arts, plotting your escape and your freedom. I recently heard you successfully mastered the shadow clone jutsu." "No. Maybe, but only to earn my freedom. Humans will not hold me in their possession forever." The voice laughed out again cheerfully. "Who knows, if this goes wrongly, you might just be freed forever." The bird paled. Did this guy plan to kill him? But, as for a name, a figure walked out of the shadows, before the ostrich. "You may refer to me as Taizun." It was the mysterious shinobi. The Sandame was stuck behind a mountain of paperwork, almost wishing he would keel over right this minute. Perhaps the greatest enemy of any cage was the mountains of paperwork that resulted. Sure, whenever a big shot like a Biju attacked, you got to fight, and you got your face on the monument, but all the paperwork was still nasty. Add to it that almost all of the paperwork was from the civilian council. Lessening of the vandalism punishment. Are they trying to ask permission to ransack Naruto's apartment? Denied. The Hokage tossed the paper aside, in the much larger pile. Did they really think they'd get these laws? Honestly, were they just trying to annoy him? Back in his youth, and during the other Hokage's reigns, the cages would use bunchins to do the paperwork. Much less stressful, and it freed up time to go out with Jiraiya for research. Damn aging, he just couldn't do a good shadow clone to do his job like he used to. His chakra replenished too slowly, and his clones last too shortly, to do it without killing himself. The Sandame wasn't quite sure if the other cages did the same thing for their paperwork, though he did know that the young Takigakure leader, Shibuki, had came to Konoha for shadow clone lessons with Ebisu. Takigakure, the village had an alliance with Konohagakure, and it had since the first Great Ninja Wars. In fact, that village was one of the reasons behind his law concerning Naruto. He had been old friends with Shibuki's father, and he heard about how they treated their Jinchuriki, a young orphaned girl named Fu. Apparently, Shibuki was her only friend, and her cousin as it appeared. The Sandame hoped that his law would at least make things simple enough for Naruto, and seeing as he wasn't mugged in the streets, perhaps it worked. Or was it just his loyal Anbu, Chunin and Jonin, like Kakashi, Guy, Anko, Shikaku, Iruka and Tenzo? Of course, this wasn't Kumo, which the Sandame saw as the best place for Jinchuriki. Soon as Jinchuriki was hated and driven insane, though the child was only Naruto's age, the Iwa Jinchuriki both left the village, with one of them loathing humanity. Kiri's Yondiami was tortured by some odd genjutsu while the Six Tails had become a missing nin, who the cage had tried to track down at one point hoping he could teach Naruto about his powers, and the acid burns his Anbu received showed the guy wasn't interested. But Kumo, because of one Jinchuriki called Killer Bee's heroic actions, valued the two of them greatly. They even had a Jinchuriki festival once a year, though perhaps it was because Bee was the son of their Sandame, and the brother of the Yondiami Raikage, the two even had their own houses. Though, such debates were just for thought. He then reluctantly returned to his paperwork. Removal of teacher Iruka Amino, for blatant favoritism towards Naruto Uzumaki. Honestly, are they just trying to punish those close to Naruto? He then signed something below it, revised, removal of teachers and political figures that showed blatant antagonism towards Naruto for only his special problem, before sending it back via Anbu. He wondered how they would react. Speaking of Iruka, their investigation had turned up some evidence for them. Iruka had evaluated Naruto's old textbooks, and found that several key pages were missing, such as ones on the clone jutsu, genjutsu, chakra control and hand signs. They also appeared removed by a low-level water jutsu scalpel, something taught by medical nin, which Naruto certainly was not, nor any academy student before him, but the principal of the academy was trained as a medical nin. This man was currently held in interrogation, with Enko who had found a new torture involving rope, a sharp-clawed obese feline, and that recently banned dish from the new eatery, that fiber bean casserole. Sarutobi didn't want to think about it. But hopefully, Naruto would receive the justice he deserved for all of his harsh treatment, perhaps by the time he returned from his C-rank mission with Team 7 to find a stolen ostrich, of all things, out in T-country. But just as he finished denying a request forthright for civilians to bear guns in Konoha and the use of them to protect their properties, probably some other harebrained scheme to harm Naruto, a loud scream was let out from a nearby room. Hiruzen, how dare you threaten just teachers and the entire civilian and elder council? That boy is addling your mind. Kaharu yelled at him. He chuckled. This was actually kind of fun. And they were wrong. Danzo was actually on his side these days. Perhaps bringing a rare mistress of the ice Kekai Genkei, or perhaps gaining one himself, swayed his old rival. Hiruzen smiled, before sending his Anbu to remove her. Land of Tea, rode before. In an ideal story, the merry team of 4, led by their sensei, would be rapidly approaching their target without a hitch. Of course, life isn't just some story written by anyone. No, while Team 7 was making good time, there was a clear divide in the air. On one side there was Sasuke and Sakura. Sasuke was glaring at his teammates Haku, Naruto and their sensei, Sharingan ablaze. Sakura stood behind him, being useless as always. Alright Dobi, do a shadow clone, Sasuke ordered. Naruto smiled evilly, with Haku behind him, but unlike Sakura she wouldn't be useless if this got ugly. Kakashi sighed, this wouldn't end well. And why should I, Teme? The Teme glared, but his Pomeranian barked. Because he ordered you to, Baka. Sasuke, learn the thing yourself, and not with those pathetic eyes of yours. Naruto smiled as he walked swiftly up to Kakashi with Haku behind him. Kakashi actually seemed surprised. You know, it's nice to see you're able to just walk away like that, Naruto. Perhaps you're maturing, Naruto smiled. Gash, thanks Kakashi, though being more mature than the Teme might just be like saying you're faster than a rock. Behind him, 2 pairs of eyes bored into him. But before they could try to stab them in the back. Greetings, Team 7. So, nice of you to show. The team rapidly turned around in shock. Right behind them was the mysterious Nuke Nen. You, give me your power like you did the Dobi, Sasuke demanded. The figure raised an eyebrow, unseen behind his darkened face. And why should I do that, Uchiha-san? Kakashi was slightly more upfront. No mind games, whoever you are, I never got your name. You may call me, Taizune. Taizune, what game is it you're playing anyway? Attacking Leaf Nen, pretending to be on Gatu's side. Wait, you, Haku said surprised. All heads turned to her. Haku-chan, you know this guy? Naruto asked confused. She nodded. Yes, this man talked to Zabuza-sama and me before we went to the bridge. Something about Zabuza-sama's past. Haku seemed to be glaring at Sasuke as she said this. Taizune, was what you said, true? I must know. Taizune stood unwavering. It is true. Yagura was ruined by one of his kind. He glared at Sasuke. But that's not why I'm here. You can just call that confirmation of a tidbit. You kidnapped an ostrich, dare I ask why? Kakashi questioned. Taizune laughed. Now, I could explain my complicated plan, but your genin just don't have the attention span. Let me just give you a brief rundown. It's all about an experiment, to obtain the power I need, to avenge. Well actually why am I talking when I should be blasting? Beast Wave Palm. A wave palm of air was sent flying at the group, with a large explosion ensuing. Shadow Clone Jutsu. The explosion the smoke it gave off gained a new tint from the obvious use of a shadow clone shield. Taizune stood unwavering as the smoke cleared, to show Naruto charging at him. Lightning Release. Thunderball. A ball of electricity formed in Naruto's hands, before it was tossed straight at Taizune. The man smirked. Storm Release. Cloud Wall. A wall of storm clouds formed in front of him, blocking the attack with an explosion of clouds. But from that smoke cloud, a dozen shadow clones flew at him. Uzumaki Barrage. A dozen punches and kicks were sent straight at Taizune, who was sent flying into a tree. However, he quickly got back up, and smiled. Your taijutsu improved, eh? Well then, prepare for some fun. He dissolved into water. Kakashi then got poked in the shoulder, as two clones of Taizune appeared next to him. Storm release. Blade of Katrina. Two blades of thickened clouds formed in the hands of the clones, who sliced them at the copy nin. A water clone, and why can't I copy it? Sasuke grumbled, as a shadow appeared behind him. It was Taizune. Quickly twisting, Sasuke blocked a fist from Taizune, before he smirked, before dissolving again into water, with another behind him. Wind release. Hurricane gust. Both Sakura and Sasuke were blown into a tree. However, he then felt his feet chill. Ice release. Ice manicles. Ice manacles had formed at Taizune's feet. Haku smirked. Ice release. Ice spike. Spikes of ice flew and pierced Taizune's chest, before he became a wooden log. It was a substitution. What, not again? Naruto groaned. This guy was slippery. Kakashi, who had just taken out the water clones with a swiping Chidori, turned towards Haku and Naruto. Fighting this guy isn't going to be easy. You two need to find that oversized pigeon he has here, so we can get the hell out of here. Naruto was shocked. But you'll be overwhelmed by this guy. Beast wave palm. A wave palm flew and struck near them, destroying the last few shadow clones near them. Haku nodded. Naruto-kun, we can't wait. Kakashi-sensei is right. We need to complete our mission. Naruto sighed, before the two of them jumped into the trees. Taizune watched them leave. URG, there goes my fun. Fire release. Great fireball technique. A huge fireball went flying straight at Taizune, who gazed at it with half his closest eye, before doing a few hand signs. Fire release. Flame bullet. A larger fireball flew from Taizune's mouth and struck the fireball head-on. It extinguished them both. Taizune then commented, "Wow, you actually have a rather impressive fireball, or it was a fluke." Sasuke was angry now and thus charged straight at him. With taijutsu, Taizune blocked his fists, before tripping Sasuke with his leg, sending the boy to the ground. Storm release. Blade of Katrina. A blade of clouds formed and was lowered straight at Sasuke, before from out of nowhere, a great fireball flew into him and sent him flying. Kakashi had saved the last Uchiha, again too much paperwork if he died. However, Taizune dissolved into water again. Shit, this guy can't be human with all this chakra, Sasuke grumbled, failing to acknowledge his sensei saving his life. Taizune, now in the apple tree above him, quickly did a jutsu. Wind release. Drill air bullet. A burst of air like his other bullets flew straight at the Jonin and out cold lump of a pinky. Kakashi quickly did another great fireball that struck the drill air bullet and destroyed it. Kakashi was cursing inside though, with that boy's Sharingan, he couldn't use most of his arsenal. However, Taizune seemed to ignore the Sharingan for some reason. A reason Sasuke demanded answers for. Why can't I copy your jutsu? Taizune chuckled. It's simple really, I know how to cancel the Sharingan's effect on me. It's really quite simple. How dare you, the Sharingan is the ultimate Kekkei Genkai. Ninja art. Apple Shurikan. The apples on the tree Taizune was hiding in flew at Sasuke, before splitting into pieces and impacting into his forehead rapidly, knocking him unconscious. I believe a not wise man once said, flutter like a butterfly, sting like a bee, no? This is buzzing like a bee, striking like a butterfly. Kakashi saw it now. Taizune had massive chakra stores, and used massive jutsu to wear his opponent out before taking them out with lower-leveled ones, like the apple shurikens. And it was working. Sasuke was panting, and he was running on maybe 25%. This guy could make some mean water clones. He sighed, before taking a gamble. Focusing lightning formed in and around his hand, with bird calls shortly behind. It was the Chidori. He was too exhausted for his lightning cutter, so this would have to do. Taizune, prepare to meet your end. Kakashi began charging straight at the enigmatic ninja, with his Chidori ablaze. Taizune smiled under his darkened face. Ah, this looks like fun, if you really want to. Storm release. Dual blade strike, Katrina and Andrew. Two blades of storm chakra formed into Taizune's hands, before he jumped straight down at Kakashi. But as the two S-class shinobi were about to clash, they failed to notice one thing. Sasuke was watching Kakashi, with Sharingan ablaze. The two attacking ninja, the copy nin Kakashi Hitaki, and the mysterious enigma Taizune, crossed paths. Before the both of them found themselves standing on opposite ends of one another, their jutsu dissipated. Kakashi and Taizune kept silent for a second, before Kakashi yelled out. A gash mark was on his side, rapidly bleeding blood. Holding onto his side, Kakashi dropped to one knee, the ground next to him quickly reddening. Taizune smirked from under his hood. So, it appears that this game is. He dropped down to one knee as well. A spare electric chakra was coursing across him from the Chidori. It appeared that they both were unable to go on. But as it was, the arrogant duck-haired boy, Sasuke, forced himself up. Not bad, Kakashi. Nice job weakening this fool, now to take him out, with my new jutsu, Chidori. The electric chakra formed onto his arm, with 1,000 birds chirping all at once. Sakura, who was now back up, gleamed with admiration. Amazing. Sasuke-kun rocks. Kakashi was cursing inside. The fool now had an assassination jutsu. He was going to regret this, and he was starting to despise anyone born with a Sharingan, except Obito. Perhaps just because he didn't activate it until minutes before he died and didn't steal that fucking jutsu of his. Taizune was wide-eyed under his cloak. Of course, the fool had to slip up, and the Uchiha now had a deadly jutsu. This was just going to complicate his plans. Chidori. Sasuke charged at Taizune, before Sasuke twitched, as a second later the Chidori flicked away. Sasuke then collapsed. Taizune breathed in relief. The fool was out of chakra now. Kakashi was mildly worried about the paperwork this would require, and Sakura was fuming. Though it was then that he caught the faint sound of breathing as Sasuke forced his head up with the Sharingan flickering. Sasuke-kun, you'll pay. Sakura drew a kunai and lunged at Taizune, who did a quick few hand signs. Wood release. Poison ivy sap wall. A wall of sappy plants, to be more specific poison ivy, rose from the ground, and caught the annoying pink bug. She yelped, "Get me off! Get me off! Get me off!" A rock near them shattered from the intense volume. Taizune chuckled, and Kakashi was shocked. How did this guy get wood release, and does that mean Naruto does as well? Taizune forced himself back up, having a brief spasm due to the Chidori, before reactivating his Stormblade, and approached the prone form of Sasuke. Now, you have to die, and then I hope those two don't damage the fortress, it's a rental. But before he could kill the child, a water jutsu flew straight at him, which he barely dodged due to his injury. The ground was now covered in sticky fluid. Water release. Syrup capture field. It was a team of Konoha shinobi, Kotetsu, Azumo and Hayate Gecko, along with a fourth medical ninja he never got the name of before. Kakashi cursed to himself. He was too injured to speak, but now two Chunin and a Tobikatsu Jonin were about to potentially give the Uchiha more jutsu. Kakashi wouldn't feel worse if Guy beat him in a hairdo contest. You've asked for it. Wind release. Drilling air bullet. Inside the fortress, we now find the two decent genin of Team 7, Naruto and Haku, in a dark hallway. The two were looking around as if expecting problems, and they were. Strange, no traps, Naruto mumbled absently, before Haku sighed. Naruto had to be so cute and dense? Can't one be without the other? Please, don't jinx it, Haku sighed behind him, before she felt her foot sink. Of course, she had to set a trap, as the floor suddenly rose up dramatically, straight towards the ceiling. Haku! Naruto yelled. Quickly, Haku jumped off the quickly rising floor, seconds before it pounded into the ceiling. However, she fell, straight onto Naruto. He yelped in surprise as Haku suddenly was crushing him. Worse yet, he was getting a face full of Haku's breasts. Well, at least they were only B-cups, he wouldn't suffocate. Haku looked down at him in surprise. Naruto-kun, sorry I didn't mean to. She mumbled with a blush. She got off him, as he scrambled back and blocked his face. Don't hurt me. Haku sighed, she wasn't surprised. The only females he really knew before her to any extent were Ayame and Sakura. While Ayame probably never gave him any reasons to cower like that, Sakura. Naruto, you know I'm not mad, it was an accident. Mentally she added that she would like to do it again, perhaps farther, but maybe after he was a year or two older, and they were Chunin. Oh, sorry, he chuckled as he slowly unshielded himself. With a blush, he tried to end the awkward moment. Well, you have nicer boobs than Sakura does, Haku chuckled. Naruto, Tora probably has better boobs than Pinky does. And the cat was male. With that, the two continued on their way to find Mr. Ostrich. Back to the fight. Storm release. Dual blade strike Katrina and Andrew. Dance of the crescent moon. With a cough, the two sword-based attacks collided, as Taizune was sent rolling back. The coughing special Jonin landed next to his panting Chunin teammates. Panting, Taizune was running low on chakra. Would even someone like him would be a little tired after fighting an A-rank Jonin. 3 good genin. Sadly, arrogance didn't take Sasuke's skill away, one of which was a Jinchuriki, 1 useless one, 2 Chunin and a special Jonin, with a major injury, unscathed. Not bad guys, this was entertaining. I'm afraid, however, that I must depart now. He used the body flicker technique, wishing he had swift release. The 2 Chunin turned towards Kakashi. Who was that guy? Their medic Nin healed Kakashi so he could speak, and with a cough deeper than Hayate's. I mean, that guy used storm, and even wood release, that shouldn't be possible. His name is Taizune. I have no idea who he is, or what he's doing. I can't help but wonder though. He dropped to the ground in exhaustion, despite the medical Nin's chakra. Is he working with Orochimaru? That did make sense. Orochimaru was the one to graft wood release into Tenzo, so it wasn't a far stretch. But his concern now was Sasuke, and whatever jutsu he got from the battle. Back inside the rented fortress altar room. Well, this is creepy, Naruto commented, with a pale Haku nodding in agreement. The castle room they had entered was the basic idea of an evil scientist's lab. There was even a welcome mat saying, "Lab sweet lab," that they were standing on, and a creepy face on the wall grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Oddly, it resembled Naruto's nightcap. Okay, this guy's either an insane scientist, or he has a sense of humor, Haku commented softly. Naruto then noticed the cage with Mr. Ostrich inside it. "Oh, it's you," a voice said. Naruto jumped in fright. Where did the voice come from? It was then the voice spoke up again. It was Mr. Ostrich. "So, the humans have come for me, how quaint. Now, let me out of this cage." Haku gazed at Naruto in a confused manner. They never said he could talk? He shrugged. Well, he never did talk before. Haku, who had been gazing around the room, suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. "Naruto. Those are summoning contracts." Half a dozen brown scrolls littered a nearby table. Naruto cocked his head in confusion. "Summoning scrolls?" Haku nodded, as they walked over towards them, and opened them. Each of the scrolls had a different animal on them, a penguin, a raccoon, a beetle, a cat, an ox and a squid. A fresh-looking one was next to them, this one with a fresh-looking ostrich on it. Each had several rather faded names on them, except for the ostrich. Zabuza spent years trying to find one he or I had an affinity with no luck. The one he did find, the cockroaches, it wasn't pleasant. You see, by signing the contract with your blood, you can summon the animal whose contract you have a contract with from a different plane of existence, or something, where animals can hold human levels of intelligence. Naruto then recalled Kakashi's Ninken. Like Kakashi's dogs? Haku nodded. Exactly. Though, this new one, there shouldn't be an ostrich summoning contract. So, is Taizune making new ones? Haku frowned. Perhaps, but to what purpose I don't know. It's very difficult to have more than one summon-able species. The animals are picky that way. It was then that Taizune appeared in a shimmer. Haku drew a handful of senbon as Naruto reached for a shuriken. Relax, I'm only a delayed clone, I have no battle abilities. I'm here to say, the ostrich shall be burned alive. Suddenly, a great fire burst forth, forming an impenetrable barrier of fire. This delayed technique, Armageddon Blaze * will burn your bird alive. He poofed out of existence. Water release, water ball. A ball of water, like lightning ball, formed in Naruto's hands and he sent the ball of liquid straight into the fire, succeeding in nothing. He looked around in desperation. "Save me, I will not be served like a chicken." Mr. Ostrich cried out as flames slowly approached his cage. Naruto gained a serious gleam into his eyes as he turned towards Haku. "Haku, what are the hand signs for a summoning jutsu?" he demanded as he grabbed the new contract. "Let's see, boar, dog, monkey, bird and ram, but why are you?" Naruto bit his thumb, and quickly wrote his name down on the ostrich contract, barely legible, before doing the hand signs in a rapid and somewhat sloppy fashion. Summoning Jutsu. Mr. Ostrich. A burst of smoke ensured, and as it cleared, Haku found Naruto sitting on the now safe ostrich, as if to ride the giant bird. Hey, what just happened? Mr. Ostrich said in confusion. Naruto chuckled. Dat Bayo. I am Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage, and first ostrich summoner. Haku chuckled. Naruto-kun, never say that in public. Ostriches didn't exactly strike fear into anyone, though then again, Hanzo was feared for his salamander. Though at least since this ostrich didn't live in its own realm, perhaps that meant he could still sign a regular contract. Well, Haku-chan, and my ostrich minion. He was rapidly tossed off by said minion, who glared at him. Do not call me that, ninjin. Naruto was rapidly attacked by the beak of said ostrich until he managed to escape. Ouch, okay ostrich-sama. Now let's get you out of here, but wait, we should probably take these other contracts. But Naruto-kun, remember what I said about. I know Haku-chan, but we might as well keep them away from Taizune. Whatever he's planning, the contracts should be safe with Oji-san. Though the challenge would be to keep them away from the Teme and the Pomeranian, Haku agreed. After all, Sasuke might not want the ostrich contract, but the thought of him summoning giant squid or tigers was alarming. But luckily, she noticed a sealing scroll lying around, and quickly managed to seal the scrolls inside it. Naruto was amazed. Haku-chan, can you teach me how to do that? Haku smiled. It was then that Mr. Ostrich interrupted. Hey you two, if you'd stop preparing to mate. Naruto and Haku blushed in a combination of indignation and embarrassment. Can you get me out of here? And by the way, Naruto, be free to summon me anytime you want. It is always good to get away from the farm. Back in Konoha, with Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi in the hospital for a few days, Sasuke and Kakashi for injuries and chakra exhaustion, and Sakura for severe allergic reactions. That left Haku and Naruto to deliver the report to the Sandame. He listened intently, before speaking up as he removed his pipe. This is an interesting development. The stockpiling of contracts, while not unheard of, is unusual. Few shinobi can use more than one, and Taizune had 6 of them, and the ability to craft a 7th for a totally new contract suggests something. What, Oji-san? He looked grave. Naruto, you know how you have the 9-tailed fox inside of you. He already knew about Haku's knowledge of it from Zabuza. Well, the fox is the strongest of the tailed beasts, of which there are 9. Wait, there are more of them? Naruto said, alarmed. The Hokage smiled. Sealed into others like you, in other villages, yes. They are the Ichibi, Nibi, Sanbi, Yanbi, Gobi, Rokubi, Nanabi and Hachabi, and finally the Kyubi. They are a raccoon, a cat, a turtle, a monkey, a dolphin horse. A what? No one really knows, a slug, a beetle, an ox-squid hybrid, and of course, the fox. Now, theory states that it is possible to summon a tailed beast with a contract of its type. For example, I have the monkey contract, and if I put enough time into it, I could possibly summon the Yanbi, though I get its Jinchuriki at the present time. The difficulty of that is why few have tried to summon a tailed beast with their contract, aside for the fact the creature would try to rip them apart if it was unsealed. Naruto looked alarmed. So, what, if someone had the fox contract, they could summon me? It's a moot point, the fox contract was destroyed long ago, its summoner unable to use it again. And there was only one summon-able fox, the Kyubi. There are many monkeys I could summon, many slugs Tsunade could call forth, many turtles Meidagai could muster, but no fox summons. So, Taizune was after summoning their Jinchuriki. The Hokage blew into his pipe. Possibly, but seeing as there are no tailed penguins or ostriches, it is possible he was doing something else entirely. But let those thoughts rest, nothing can be obtained from worrying like this. All of you have received pay for this B-rank mission, and both of you may keep the contracts you found to your heart's content. But don't try to sign all 6 of them, it's bound to end poorly. That and the fact Jiraiya would kill the Hokage when he got back, before the Toads rioted and kidnapped Naruto. I will also keep this from the councils, and I recommend keeping that storage scroll with you at all times. The bank has a no-scroll policy, and it is possible that if the civilian or elder council hear of this they will demand you hand them over to Sasuke for his use, all of them. Just in case, however, I grant you freedom from such an order. To make it official, he quickly wrote a law and signed it himself. I've already made a call for Sume-san and Hiyashi-san to sign this bill as well to help make the bill official. With no canine summons, Sume would hold no interest in the contracts, especially the cat one, and the Hyuga don't perform jutsu outside of their clan, so Hiyashi had no stake in the contracts. But what they missed was a young ninja outside the window listening in to the meeting and dashing off. This ninja was civilian-born. In a dark chamber room, Homura's estate, several days later. Homura, Kaharu and the civilians were fuming. Sasuke and Sakura were finally freed from hospitalization, but then one of their civilian shinobi informants told them that 7 summoning contracts were retrieved on the mission, all in the hands of the ice slut and the foxboy. Sasuke and Sakura were seething in fury, and the council was tossing oil onto this fire. After all, how dare the demon and his ice slut take power that should be used by the Uchiha? Sadly, this has always been the case. The story of Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno is a complicated one, or at least, Sasuke's is. Both were born into rich and influential families. The Uchiha were one of the most powerful clans in the world and in charge of the Konoha police, while the Haruno were a merchant family of high regard. While on the Shinobi Council, the Uchiha were the most influential members. As a member of the Civilian Council, Sozoshi Haruno was a loud activist for civilian rights, and quickly gained support in the civilian and elder side. However, back in this time, the civilians had much less power because of the Uchiha. As the police of the village, the Uchiha knew the potential danger of many of the laws the civilians wanted to pass. For example, laws like, no ninja may enter a civilian's property without permission, civilians are to have the right of way in the streets would easily impair ninja movement in a crisis, and the many anti-Naruto laws brought forth by Sozoshi Haruno, such as laws against him using public restrooms, restaurants and entry into the academy itself, were negated because of the Uchiha. Yes, the Uchiha were actually major pro-Naruto activists. Sasuke's mother, Makoto, had actively encouraged Sasuke to try to befriend the young Naruto, back when Sasuke was a nice, well-mannered kid. Fugaku personally jailed many attempted attackers and fined a dozen malicious street vendors for unfair treatment, and Itachi was one of the Anbu the Sandaime trusted to protect Naruto. Naruto never had any problems shopping in the Uchiha district. They almost treated him like Ichiraku's did. This treatment was logical really. The Uchiha, unlike the Civilian Council, knew about the nature of sealing, and knew the boy was perfectly human. They also were militarily minded, for they knew the military potential of Naruto. They wanted to ensure Naruto's loyalty to the village. This was one of the reasons they planned a coup to overthrow the Civilian Council. Itachi, while all for the Civilian Council's demise, knew this plan could easily spell war, something the pacifist was against. That and his stronger loyalty was to the Hokage and the clan heads who would most likely be overthrown as well, spawned the Uchiha clan massacre, with manipulation from Madara, unknown to all but Itachi of course. This led to the Civilian Council gaining more power, with their greatest rival now under puppet control. As a minor and clan head by default, Sasuke's votes were in the elders' hands, allowing for more of their bills to be passed, and fewer of the shinobi councils. Though they didn't get any chance to force punishment onto Naruto, as Itachi still cared about him, and had threatened the elders who pushed him to slaughter his family that if anything was to happen to Naruto, or Sasuke, including death, banishment, castration or anything else of such nature, he'd reveal Konoha's secrets to the other 4 great nations. Understandably, the council agreed. This was where the Sasuke problem began. Not only did his family's massacre traumatize him for life, but it also put him in the guardianship of anti-Naruto activists Homura and Kaharu. They told him time and time again, he was not only supposed to despise Naruto for any reason he could, but also fueled his arrogance. He was decent for up to a year under them, still following his parents' examples, but then the fangirl base and the worship the civilian and, Danzo excluded, Elder Council gave him rotted him to the core. Similarly, Sakura was also spoiled by her mother, and made to believe in anti-Narutoism. She remained a decent person, perhaps because of her friendship with Ino, until Sasuke came into the picture, when things rotted in her soul as well. And they had reason to be arrogant. After all, Sakura was the most intelligent of the kunoichi, while Sasuke was Rookie of the Year. However, book smarts only got you so far in the line of duty, So Sakura, while she could write strategies, didn't truly have the power to pull them off. Sasuke, however, was arrogant and skilled. Combined with his Sharingan, he was a walking time bomb. And that bomb was active. Hiruzen-sama has fallen under that damn brat's grip. He favors him over us, the council. He favors him above our hero, our hope for the future of Konoha, Uchiha-sama. And now that idiot of a Sandaime thinks he can just write us off with a bill, Well, let's see how those two can handle confrontation. Mark my words, the blonde terror and his ice whore will be beaten until they never rise against Uchiha-sama again. Sasuke smirked, with his pink lackey behind him. That Dobi's going to get his ass given to him, and those contracts will be mine, for the Uchiha clan exclusively. Kaharu gave a toothy, evil grin. And then, we're invoking the old Clan Restoration Act. The old fool can't hope to argue against it, unless he wants to be charged for treason against the village. With that act, Sasuke, any female who agrees, or has reason to. Homura chuckled. Will be married to you, to rebirth the Uchiha clan. And they had several targets. Haku for one, the ice release will make the Uchiha even more unstoppable than before. Then there's Enko Mitarashi, the council have wanted her dealt with, and she is a strong kunoichi. Strong kunoichi, strong children after all. Plans also called for forced agreements involving one or both of Hiyashi Hyuga's daughters and Ino Yamanaka, daughter of Inoichi Yamanaka, as well as Hana Inuzuka. Sume, Inuzuka's daughter, are also in the making. Those old fools will have no choice but to vote with us unless they want to lose their daughters. Hell, we'd take them anyway after the big vote. Imagine it, a new Uchiha clan, with Sakura's brains, the ice sluts Kekai Genkei, Enko's strength, the Yamanaka jutsu, the Inuzuka senses, and perhaps even a combination of both the Byakugan and the Sharingan. Sasuke was grinning evilly. Yes, I can see it now, and myself as the Hokage and my brother dead. Sozoshi Haruno then yelled loudly. But remember, my daughter only goes to you once you become a Chunin. That's the marriage law we passed for shinobi. All in the hope that they'd be able to keep Naruto a genin forever. Don't worry, all he has to do is get to the finals, and we'll make him a Chunin, regardless of anything. He's definitely more deserving than the brat. Sadly, they didn't get a chance to call Naruto what they wanted. The Hokage's law was actually a large jutsu. Use of a violating phrase would be detected by the Sandaime immediately, and Anbu would swarm in here in seconds. But then again, in a few hours, the demon will get knocked around a lot by their champion. Konoha streets. Ichiraku ramen. One miso ramen, with a pork ramen on the side please. Oh, and a miso for Haku as well. Naruto ordered from his favorite, and truth be told, only eatery, Ichiraku ramen. The two chefs here, Tuchi and his daughter Ayame, smiled and warmly took Naruto's order. They both cared for him quite a lot, not only as a person, but as 50% of their annual income. In fact, Naruto paid for their TV, phone, internet and the rent on both their shop and their house each month. Gotcha, Naruto-kun. Ayame chuckled. Haku had an anime-styled vein on her forehead. She turned towards Naruto in a very slow, very creepy manner. Naruto-kun, he gulped. Why, yes? She grinned and broke the creepy facade. It's nice to see you have people who care about you in the village. Haku had a sense of humor. Living with Naruto you had to, and add in her training with Zabuza, and you have a potent combination. Of course, she wasn't living with Naruto the way she'd like to, not in the same bed. He slept on the couch, he insisted. Chivalry, in small doses, was always a fine trait in boyfriends after all. Here you go. The two were given their orders, and Tucci decided to have some fun. So, is this a date? He chuckled, to a fit of blushing. No, it's just we heard we might get another long-distance mission, so I need to get a good meal in the both of us first. They both of them had packs for the trip as well, though it wasn't as if Naruto really had anything to bring, or worth anything for that matter, aside for his cloths, his night hat, wallet and ninja tools. Haku carried similar things, aside for the weird night hats and in addition, the ceiling scroll holding the contracts. But just as they finished off their ramen, a loud voice rang out behind them. Momoichi Haku, Uzumaki Naruto. They turned around to find Sasuke and Sakura behind them, with smug grins, with the civilian council behind them, all with evil grins. Teme, what's with the party here? Had to go and do a group duck emo ritual? Naruto smirked. Haku chuckled before the younger Haruno yelled out. Baka, be more respectful to Sasuke-kun. He is your superior. Lay off you Trans-Pomeranian, Haku growled. We are all genin, our ranks are equal. I'm the head of the Uchiha. And how many Uchiha does that make? Face it Teme, you're no more a clan head than I am. Dobi, I demand you give me those scrolls. Haku raised an eyebrow slowly. Scrolls, what scrolls? Technically, she was right. They only had one scroll that held the multiple scrolls. The summoning scrolls. Give them to Sasuke-kun. No, even if we had them, no. Naruto smirked defiantly. The civilians on the council decided to chip their much over-speculated 2 cents into this fight. Uchiha-sama has the support of the council. And where is the shinobi council? Bah, they don't count. And the elders? Naruto was having fun tearing them apart. They are busy correcting your teacher's mistakes. Screams were flying through the air, and it sounded faintly like, my ICHA. Really, I think you council members would understand the rules. All 3 councils have to vote on an issue before such demands like yours are made. Tucci smirked. The council then turned on them. For that, Tucci Baka, that shack of yours is going to be closed down, with our authority. Yes, and might I add you can do that, because I am a civilian. But you can't order around shinobi like Naruto-kun or Haku-chan. Tucci said confidently. Naruto and the Sandame would keep his business afloat, and if not all their non-Naruto customers' funds went into his and Ayame's nest egg. They had enough to live well enough for at least a decade without working. The council was furious. That fool wasn't just going to be driven out of business, but into prison. As the last of the Uchiha, I have the authority of the Konoha police. Hand over the contracts, or you're going to be arrested, Dobi. Your idiot friend behind the bar there is already going to the big house for his insubordination. This was another reason why Homura and Kaharu took such interest in Sasuke, and molded him into their puppet. He had control of the police by blood and its authority. Once he restarted the Uchiha and got his blood in the officers, they'd be unopposed. However, Teme, you're no police shinobi, your Uchiha police force is long gone. Naruto smirked. That ticked off Sasuke for the last time. Dobi, that's it, you're getting it now. Sakura restrained the old man. Fire style. Phoenix Sage fire technique. Hundreds of small fire sparks flew straight at Naruto and Haku as his pink-haired minion went to capture the civilian. Ice release. Ice dome. A dome of ice formed around the 2 genin, blocking the fire jutsu. Water release. Water ball. A ball of water formed in Naruto's hand, before he sent it straight at Sasuke. The ball hit him and sent him sprawling into the dirt. Pushing himself up, the council was yelling. You attacked the last Uchiha. You're getting it now, boy. Shadow clone jutsu. Naruto created a dozen shadow clones and charged at Sasuke. He glared bloody murder at them. Fang passing fang. Sasuke jumped into the air, and began spinning, turning into a sharp vortex of claws. This vortex struck the clones, destroying them. And seeing this from the view of the Hokage's crystal ball was Sume Inuzuka, Shikaku Nara and the Sandame, who were furious. That piece of cat crap stole my clan jutsu. Sume was fuming. You could almost see the steam coming out of her ears. Next to her, her large one-eyed canine companion Kuromaru was growling. Shikaku was annoyed as well. That troublesome boy must have been spying on your son's training, and used his Sharingan. Sadly, there is no law to use on him. He stole hidden jutsu. Troublesome woman, but the fact remains there was never a law on it, it was more of a moral rule thing. And that boy has no morals. That was it for Sume, as she burst through the window with Kuromaru close behind. Shikaku shook his head. I'd stop her, but it'd be too troublesome. I just hope Inoichi-san can get Kakashi-san out of his jam. URG. I'll go summon the rest. It's troublesome, but those 3 are going to get in trouble if they attack the Uchiha or the council for that matter. Agreed. The Hokage nodded. Sarutobi-sama, I believe another option may be necessary. These fights are growing too frequent. Danzo hobbled into the room via cane. Shikaku blinked. Wait, you're not assaulting Kakashi-san? Danzo huffed. Shikaku-san, I don't care much for either him, or our little whiskered friend, but the fact is, both of them are important assets to Konoha's security. The one thing we agree on, old friend. Sarutobi blew into his pipe in agreement. Team 7 is falling apart. Uchiha and Haruno aren't compatible with Uzumaki or Momoichi, so I suggest we split the team up. Sarutobi was surprised. Danzo-san, we don't have any spare genin, and genin teams may only go into the upcoming Chunin exams with 3. The civilians and my old teammates will have a cow if Sasuke is barred, and I won't allow Naruto or Haku to be barred either. Danzo smiled. That's why I have a two-part plan. First, Haruno and Uchiha are placed on a team with my young ward. He stood aside to allow a strange pale boy with a black mid-drift t-shirt, Enbu pants and a creepy fake smile walked out and bowed. Sandame-sama, it is a pleasure to meet you. This is my ward, Sai. The Sandame eyed the child with dark curiosity. Strange, I have never met this one, or seen him. He isn't a root. Hokage-sama, I dissolved my group years ago. Danzo lied. And as for Uzumaki and Haku, he stepped aside to allow another man to enter. He had a blue shirt, an armored right shoulder and white pants. He had brown hair and on his head was the high 8 for Takigakure. Greetings, Hokage Dono. The Sandame was confused. Shibuki Dono? The man smiled. The Hokage's office. The Sandame blinked. Out of nowhere, the leader of perhaps the most paranoid of all ninja villages, offering up their own Jinchuriki, and his cousin at that. The Sandame had been told for ages that anything too good to be true wasn't true. Did it matter if it was him winning the Land of Earth's lottery, or free Icha Icha for the next 5 volumes? These offers were always fake, or had a catch to them. Shibuki Dono, may I ask, why are you offering to give up this Fu, your cousin and your village's Jinchuriki? I believe you are aware of our own Jinchuriki. Yes, Naruto Uzumaki. Correct, and despite the wishes of the civilian council, I've tried to make his life as good as possible. Like finding the most trustworthy banker to protect his account and trust funds from Jiraiya, as well as to guard his parents' old funds, and helping Naruto gain a rather decent apartment. Of course, it would be easier to just cut the civilian and elder councils off the equation, but it was an old law dating back to the days of the Shodai, that the civilians were to have a say in the village government. Of course, the only ones who got into power were the ones who wanted to control the ninja for their own agendas. Shibuki sighed. Sandame Dono. I wish this wasn't true, but compared to your Jinchuriki, Fu has lived a horrible life. Aside from me and my father, no one in the village cares about her. Everyone knows what she has sealed within her, unlike what you've done here, and can't look past it. My father, and later myself, had to privately tutor ourselves for her to even get the training of one of your academy students. She can't even go out for a walk without being verbally and even at times physically abused. Heck, probably the only reason she hasn't been raped is because the people are afraid she'd reproduce. He was shaking in anger. I just want to see her happy, and she won't be happy in Takigakure. A village leader should really hold his emotions in greater control. Danzo muttered. At the same time, we can use this as a show of trust. We show our trust to you by sending over the person who can potentially become Taki's greatest kunoichi, and you can send something to us of equal value. I can't ask you to take the Uchiha, can I? No. Oh, worth a try. The Sandame blew on his pipe. Speaking of, we need to figure out some sort of punishment that bypasses the laws of the civilian and elder councils as a way to punish that fool for his behavior. I believe both of us are in agreement that the Uchiha should not be made a Chunin. Danzo commented. The Hokage nodded. Troublesome, I agree with that point. Shikaku shrugged. We could use that option. The Sandame was referring to making it public the Uchiha's plans and removing Itachi's missing nin status. While risky, this could make it so Itachi would be the new Uchiha head, and the votes would be rebalanced again. That won't work. The troublesome council will twist that into their advantage. Shikaku sighed. For instance, they could say that the Uchiha were manipulated by residual demon energy or some other crap like that, and deal away with Naruto. They were crafty that way. You could just give Naruto his house. Shibuki suggested. The Sandame thought about it for a minute, before he turned towards Shikaku, who was grinning. Or, better yet, the entire Uchiha district. Back to the brawl, Konoha streets. Sakura lay on the ground, Uchiha fans flying around her head. Tucci, with a frying pan in hand, sighed. You know, I swear ninja standards are dropping daily. Ayame, back in the day, you could find academy students in their second year with better reaction time than this lump of pink mush. Sadly, only Tucci was having any luck in the fight. As it was, while Sakura and Sasuke were both spoiled brats, Sasuke was a skilled spoiled brat, and his guardians the elder bats had found their way here, as if they didn't have enough problems already. Ice release, ice spikes. Haku sent spikes of sharp ice straight at Sasuke in an attempt to maim him. He laughed. Fire release, dragon fire jutsu. A dragon made of flames was spewed out of Sasuke's mouth, and quickly melted the ice before flying straight at Haku. Storm release, great twister. Naruto jumped in between Haku and Sasuke, taking the blaze into the twister. Sasuke stared wide-eyed at the now flaming vortex. Storm release, flaming twister. A flaming vortex slammed into Sasuke, sending him crashing to the ground. The council behind him began yelling insults. How dare you strike a clan heir? Freak, you should give those jutsu to Uchiha-sama. You are all idiots. Naruto yelled as the twister dissolved and he landed on the ground. Even if that so-called Sama of yours was any good, he can't copy any of mine or Haku's jutsu. The council just got angrier. Then change that. And why should we listen to you inbred fat bastards anyway? This shouting match continued until one of the dumber, fatter merchants yelled out. How dare you oppose our will you, demon. Naruto's eyes twitched, as did Haku's, Tucci's and Ayame's. While Sakura was out cold and couldn't hear that comment, Sasuke did. Huh, what's this about the Dobi and demons? The council member was about to answer that, until he felt a sharp pain on his back, and collapsed to the ground. Hidden shadow snake hand. The man had been bitten in the back by a dozen poisonous snakes, which retreated into the arm of a rather ticked-off kunoichi, with purple hair, blandish brown eyes, a brown overcoat and some sort of mesh suit. Sasuke for some reason shivered at the sight of her. Oh great, it's her. Homura grumbled. It was Enko Mitarashi, the student of Orochimaru, known by many names, the Dango Serpent Mistress, the #1 hyperactive knucklehead kunoichi, and the kunoichi most likely to kill someone with a glare. And she was not amused. Okay, what the hell is going on here? Breaking the laws, attacking civilians and ninja. Looks like I have to drag you all to interrogation. Sasuke shivered, he didn't have fond memories of that place. Get out of here, Mitarashi. This is justice for our Uchiha-sama being denied scrolls that should be his. Kaharu yelled. Sakura's mom decided to add. This is a civilian matter as well, so be gone snake whore. That ticked her off. Snake. Whore. Summoning jutsu. Anko, now seriously angry, summoned a giant black, yellow-striped snake the width of an average pickup truck. The council fled for their lives, pursued by the large snake. Anko laughed. Those idiots, it's just a harmless giant gardener snake. Well, that's them, now then Uchiha-kun. He shivered at the tone, it was disturbing. Give me a reason why I shouldn't show you that trick of mine involving Fluffy the tabby and the stick of butter again. Once, Sasuke had been to interrogation and saw Anko at work there. Ever since, he was terrified of any of her overkill ways of torture. That particular torture was too horrible to think about. Because, I am rescuing powerful artifacts from an enemy kunoichi and some sort of demon. Anko smiled evilly. Wrong answer kid. Fire release, fire snakes. Anko breathed in deeply, before unleashing 2 snakes made of fire straight as Sasuke. The snakes lunged. Water release, syrup capture field. A wave of sticky water flew from Sasuke's mouth, trapping the fire snakes in some sort of glue. They cried out before smoking out. Damn. Anko growled before avoiding a dropkick from the bastard, before giving him a sidekick, to find the boy flickering out. It was the basic clone jutsu. Thanks for the trick, by the way snake whore, fire release, fire snakes. A single fire snake flew from Sasuke's mouth and struck Anko, knocking her into the sticky trap. This singed through her net clothing, luckily not anything major, but her stomach was no longer covered. Sasuke smirked, loving how this village had all sorts of strong and attractive kunoichi that would be used to revive his clan. Ice release, ice spikes. Sasuke's gloating ended only seconds before he got impaled, the water from his own jutsu freezing into the attack. Fire release, great fireball jutsu. Lightning release, thunderball jutsu. The 2 attacks from Naruto and Sasuke collided in the air, releasing an explosion. Sasuke was briefly distracted by the explosion, before Naruto came up from behind him and gave him a kick to the ass. Sasuke flew into the air from the intensity, before he turned around. Fire release. Phoenix Sage fire technique. Dozens of small fires flew at Naruto from below. He was impaled, before poofing. It was a shadow clone. Dobi, I will have that jutsu if nothing else. Don't think so. Lightning release. 1000 years of pain. Sasuke suddenly felt violated as Naruto performed Kakashi's joke jutsu, but with a slight twist. An electric charge had been added. With a yelp that could scare a dragon, Sasuke was catapulted into the air and fell to the ground, twitching with electric chakra. Tucci was laughing, as the poor boy was rubbing his ass and forcing himself up. Dobi, you violated me. Hey, it's an actual technique in the data books, another patented Naruto jutsu. I'll sell scrolls of these. Oh, just imagine that an ice release. Naruto, I am not. What, for all I know Taizune and thus me might have it. Good point. Naruto laughed, before he found himself frozen, as did Haku. I can't move. Both his and Haku's shadows were connected to Sasuke's, who was up and grinning. Dobes, you can't hope to beat me. That Shitamaru may be a worthless ass, as is his entire clan, but this shadow possession is going to be fun. He activated a Chidori. Now, die Dobi. He ran at Naruto, charging the jutsu as both Haku and Naruto were forced to run towards him due to the shadow possession. Though before he could kill them with it, two things happened. First, he felt a sharp strike to his back, like some sort of reinforced poke. Second, something bit his leg. A snake. Sasuke's justice broke as he collapsed to the ground. Haku and Naruto sighed in relief. It was then they got a chance to see their saviors. One was obvious. The snake had come from the escaped Anko. The other was a blue-haired, pale-eyed girl who was glaring at Sasuke with a look of fury that could give Ibiki chills. Hinata-san? Naruto said, shocked. She smiled nervously, before poking her fingers together. Oh, hey, Naruto-kun. Haku had seen this girl around before, almost stalking Naruto. And while it was nice to see that at least one girl in this town didn't worship Duckhead, having competition for her Naruto-kun was annoying. How dare you hit me with your filthy Hyuga hands and your disgusting snakes, you whores. You are impeding justice on the Dobi. All four of the figures still upturned and glared at him. Now, normally you could find mice that were more vicious than Hinata, being that she was probably the nicest and shyest of the kunoichi. Arguably, she could probably get swamped with date requests if she didn't wear that jacket of hers. However, some things easily ticked her off. The first thing would be someone eating her cinnamon buns. Another would be asking if she was a boy. But the worst thing you could do near her was insult Naruto. After all, ever hear the saying, hell have no wrath like a woman scorned? And with Sume on the scene now, growling, that made four scorned woman. So, you think you can steal hidden jutsu, shrimp. Sume picked up the Uchiha by the scruff and held him up to her eyesight. Sasuke then did perhaps the dumbest thing he could have possibly done. Put me down you imbred mutt. Don't you have a bitch to fuck or something? Apparently, Sasuke thought this was Kiba's dad. For that mistake, he was sent flying into a wall that promptly collapsed. The gathered females, meanwhile, cracked their knuckles. What happened next was a beating so terrifying, I can't describe it with words. Thus, Naruto decided he would never, ever, ever tick off a girl, ever. A day later, Hokage's office. With Sakura out with a concussion, and Sasuke still in the of a civilian hospital, the only one that would take him. We find Naruto, Haku, Hinata, Hiashi, Sume, Shikaku, Anko and Tucci in the office of the Hokage. Because of what had happened, and the still annoyed council, Sume had offered to let Naruto and Haku stay the night at her place. Terrified of upsetting her, they agreed. The old man blew on his pipe, before beginning. This is a disaster. The entire town has divided. Now everyone either hates you, or worships the ground you walk on. The conspirators are in hiding. Both the civilian and elder councils have been barred from gathering until a month after the upcoming Chunin exams, and while the law protects you from having to pay for the life you took, Anko-san, please don't do it again. I've gotten over a dozen letters demanding your removal just for that incident. The special Jonin grinned. Only 12? That's a little low. Sume found herself respecting this woman even more. And while Kakashi is no longer being tortured, the poor guy is going to need some therapy to recover. Monies from both Kaharu's and Homura's estates have been moved to his account as damages. And now, for the Uchiha's punishment, which is the reason why I've called you all here. While the civilian and elder council think they have covered all their bases, such as his ninja rank, the Chunin exams and his Sharingan, I've managed to grab several mute points. First and foremost, the Uchiha funds in the bank are no more, all paid off as damages to the Nara, Inuzuka, Uzumaki, and Momoichi accounts as sizable amounts. The rest of it is being held in a new account in case he has stolen any other clan jutsu. Next, the assets of the Uchiha have been liquidated to you all. While the police powers are still with the civilians, their proxy vote control of the Uchiha seats have been removed, and replaced with a seat for the head of the Hyuga branch family. Hiyashi nodded. While not gleaming with happiness, inside he was pleased. Now the branch family had a say in their fate, in a way that the elders of his clan couldn't stop. After all, influencing a council vote by way of controlling seals was punishable by death. And the former Uchiha district is now in the possession of Naruto Uzumaki. This was the shocker. Everyone looked at him in shock and surprise. What? Naruto-kun, most of Sasuke's aggressive actions has been against you and Haku-san, and because of a little law they placed, a shinobi from another village who hasn't been in Konoha for at least a year can't own property. At the same time, the civilian council hates you, so this is the perfect way to tick them off. Guess that's true, but wait, what about Ichiraku's? The Sandame sighed. Sadly, I'm unable to stop them from demolishing it, also. Oh yeah, Tuchi-sama, how'd you like to open Ichiraku's in my new part of town? Tuchi was wide-eyed. Naruto-kun, you do that? How much? For free of course. Tuchi hugged the boy in glee. This boy could probably pay for all his expenses from his ramen habits anyway. The Sandame smiled. Only Naruto would be that generous. Wait, does that mean I'm Sasuke Tomi's landlord? No, he's kicked out of his house, and well, you were as well. The civilians foreclosed your place, Naruto gulped. They did what? Haku was thankful they still had their stuff. But don't worry, we already are preparing a place for you three to stay. Now everyone was looking confused. 3? Why of course, your new teammate is going to live with you too. You are to escort Shibuki Dono, head of Takigakure, to meet her and bring her here, as part of your new team with her and Haku. Naruto had his mouth wide open, and Haku and Hinata were mentally thinking, oh great, a new rival. The third training ground where the failure of a team, the original Team 7, had their first test. A test which got our beloved orange-wearing ninja tied to a post. But instead of finding either Kakashi, who was currently getting therapy, Naruto, who had just left with Shibuki and Haku to find Fu, or the team of Sasuke, Sakura and Sai. As Sasuke was still in the Sakura was in hysterics after hearing what had happened to the Uchiha fortunes, and now the council was drawing up some sort of Save the Uchiha fund, and Sai, no one had any idea where he was. Instead, this training ground found itself in the presence of the much more stable Team 8. Hinata Hyuga. The tall, mysterious shade wearing Shino Aburame and the fur jacket. Wild-looking Kiba Inuzuka. And his small white puppy Akamaru. They were waiting for their Jonin-sensei, the strange-dressing, odd-eyed Karinia Yuhi. Strange things are stirring, Shino commented to break the silence. Kiba smirked. Hell yeah, they are Shino-san. And I fail to see the problem with any of them. Sasuke is dirt poor and in the hospital. We finally have enough money for a pool, and with Team 7 all messed up, I doubt we'll have to worry about them in the Chunin exams. Hinata looked away, and Kiba quickly edited what he said. I mean, Sasuke Teme and Sakura-san are probably not going to be in the Chunin exams. Now most people would think that Kiba was a womanizer based off his dog-like looks and behavior. That was far from the case. His mother was one of the most terrifying kunoichi in the village, purpose the entire shinobi world. There's a reason his dad ran for the hills, and it may have involved a dress, a tomato and pack mentality. In addition, he was one of Naruto's old friends, dating back to before he even met Akamaru. Because of that, he was probably one of the reasons that Naruto didn't end up like the Jinchuriki of Suna, as in an insane bloodthirsty maniac, in addition to people like Iruka, the Sandaime, Choji and Shikamaru. And he was one of the few people to ever see and survive against an enraged Hinata, when Akamaru ate Hinata's last cinnamon bun. The poor puppy was nearly neutered before Hinata calmed down, apologized, and cried her eyes out. "Oh, that's okay, Kiba-san," she smiled nervously, poking her fingers together. Kiba had a devious smirk. While he knew quite well not to enrage Hinata, teasing her about her feelings, provided he didn't insult Naruto of course. "So, I hear you have some competition, Hinata-chan." She looked at him in surprise nervously. "I mean, I can tell you like Naruto-san, I can smell it. But the thing is, I can smell Haku-san has feelings for him just the same as you do, and knowing Naruto, I bet that the new teammate he's gone off to get will like him too, if she's female. Wonder if you'll be able to snag yourself your little crush." Hinata was blushing. "Kiba-san," she was looking glum again. Kiba sighed. "Hinata-chan, I was kidding. Oh, that came out wrong. Obviously. Shino-san, if you're such an expert, you fix it." Shino just stared in his creepy fashion. "Kiba-san, I am not an expert on females, unless they're insects. You got yourself into this mess, it's your job to fix it," Kiba glared, before trying a different approach. "Hinata-chan, the best way to make sure you get Naruto, just be yourself. Talk to him. And I guess if you beat Haku in the Chunin exams that might help." Hinata looked as though she was getting an idea. A rush of leaves then alerted them to the arrival of Kurenai. "Kurenai-sensei?" Hinata asked nervously. The Genjutsu queen smiled. "Yes, Hinata-chan? Well. You know, how Naruto-kun, has those water release, and lightning. Release, could you, teach me some of those, too?" Meanwhile in Taki, Hero's water chamber. The hidden chamber of the hero's water, one of the world's most powerful substances. Taken from an ancient tree that dates back to before the time of the ninja villages once every 100 years, this water is enriched with chakra to a point a single sip can give the drinker the power equal to opening 2 chakra gates. The water is why Taki has never been invaded successfully. However, the water also cuts the user's lifespan by how much one drinks. A sip takes a year, a gulp takes 5, and the entire container would kill anyone. This water was highly sought after, so defending it is Shibuki's most sacred duty. And with him gone, the duty was currently on another, his cousin Fu. Well, she wasn't told to defend it, but the minute Shibuki left, a few of the dumber shinobi tried to break in, so she was hiding out here. No one but Shibuki knew she had any idea where the water was, or where it was at all for that matter. Fu had tanned skin and mint green hair with orange eyes. She wore a short white midriff shirt, with the bottom edged with fishnet armor. A tacky high 8 was on her arm. The opposite side Shikimaru wore it on, though to her the only reason she wore the thing was because she was loyal to Shibuki, and not the dumb fucks in the village. Also on her arms were white armlets. She was wearing a similar pair of shorts to her shirt, with a red cylinder container leaning up against the wall that belonged to her. As of now, she had her eyes closed, as if trying to take a break, when out of nowhere, loud splashes were heard, waking her up. Out of nowhere, 3 teenagers with ugly brown potato sack-like clothing and odd water mask things on their mouths. Their headbands had the symbol of a megacure, the village hidden in the rain. Fu stood up immediately, glaring at the strange people. "Who the hell are you clowns?" Fu demanded. The fools glared at her. "We are Team Oboro. Give us the hero's water and we'll allow you to live. Our god wishes to have it." Fu grinned. "A god? Really, do you actually believe in that trash? Trust me boys, if gods did exist, let's just say I wouldn't be this dump of a village's scapegoat. However, this hero's water is the property of Shibuki-sama, so buzz off, before I stick those stupid respirators of yours up your asses." The ugly Aim Genin glared. "I was hoping you'd say that. Water style, water wyvern bullet." A small water dragon rose from the waterport they had come from and flew straight at Fu, who grinned. You see, Jinchuriki abilities often were dependent on the tailed beast inside of them. For example, Roshi, the Jinchuriki of the Yanbi, or four-tailed monkey, gained lava release from his beast. Gara of the desert gained sand and wind abilities from the Ichibi, Shukaku, and Killer Bee gained the ability to spit out ink from the Hachibi or the giant ox squid thing. Fu's beast was the Sanbi, the seven-tailed horned beetle. And while the beast wasn't a lava-launching monkey or a sand-controlling raccoon, it did have one thing. Massive strength. Fu jumped into the air and smashed into the beast, causing it to disintegrate from the impact. The three rain genin panicked. "What is she, Tsunade of the Sannin?" one of them said in amazement, before he felt a kick to the nuts that sent him flying into the wall. Water release, tornado of water. A maelstrom of water surrounded Fu, that smashed into the second and third genin, knocking the three into the walls. In fear, the genin jumped into the water and swam away. She stretched her arms and sighed. "That wasn't even a little bit entertaining. Kill them. Shudik, you oversized bug." The seal that Fu had, while nowhere as weak as Gaara's, wasn't as powerful as Naruto's either. The seven tails could still speak to her, and it got really annoying. "You're too soft. They attacked you, they die. So what, they attacked the village, not my problem." More splashes were heard as Fu turned and to her surprise saw dozens of rain ninja emerge into the chamber. And leading them was a black-haired, creepy man. "Suin-san. Ah, if it isn't the insect. Funny finding you here. Planning on grabbing the hero's water yourself?" "Can't say I blame you. Both you and I can agree this group of huts isn't worth much, though I can't understand why a freak like you would stay here." Fu growled. "This is Shibuki-sama's home, and while I don't care a damn for the village, I'm not going to abandon him." Suin laughed. "Oh, you care about Shibuki-kun eh? The coward isn't good for anything except as a figurehead. Now hand over the hero's water, and when the villagers blame you for its theft, I'll give you a day's head start." Fu grinned evilly before closing her eyes. "Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not happening today." Suddenly, a red bubbling sound could be heard as a red aura surrounded Fu. It took the rough shape of a horned beetle, a giant horn of red chakra adorning Fu's head. One wing-like protrusion poked out of the chakra from her back. Opening her eyes, Fu's eyes were now golden yellow. Unlike Naruto, Fu had received some training in how to control her powers from Shibuki's dad. Because of it, she could control one tail of her full power and use it. "What the hell is she?" And then, all hell broke loose as he was smashed by an arm of painful red chakra. Meanwhile in the fox's seal. The fox sniffed the air, and it picked up a familiar scent. The Nanbi's chakra. The oversized vixen smirked. It appeared the Nanbi had a host who'd use her power. Why didn't she have a Jinchuriki who'd use her power? Perhaps it was that additional seal. The seal, while holding from her host what the fox could smell 8 more Kekkei Genkai for now, also seemed to be doing something else. The seal was slowly returning her yin chakra. The chakra that the Yondiemi, who she had a picture of now alongside the shodais that she found, had sealed within himself. This was slowly increasing both her own and Naruto's power. The seal also was binding the traits to the boy's genetic structures. The traits could also be passed, should the boy ever get the brains to choose a mate. Wait, if the boy got married, did that make the QB a lesbian? Once she got out, she'd need to raise a small country. Whoever this Taizun was, he seemed to be a master of seals, and only one clan was that skilled with seals. The Uzumaki. Taizun might be a remnant of the old clan. Back to actual reality. The traveling trio of Shibuki, Naruto and Haku found themselves in a village under attack. Hundreds of AIM ninja were actively attacking. This was to native of war. "You guys, you need to protect the hero's water, go." Shibuki ordered. Naruto and Haku were aghast. "But these ninja are swarming all over the place. You guys are being overwhelmed." Shibuki sighed. "The ninja attacking are AIM ninja from the land of rain. As it is, it appears there will be war between AIM and Taki. If you guys participate, that will only draw Konoha into the war. I don't want to be known in history as the man who led to the 4th Shinobi World War. Fu must be with the hero's water, it's hidden under the tree, go." The two genin, begrudgingly ran for it. Shibuki glared at the invading AIM ninja. Water release, water dragon bullet. A giant dragon made of water swamped the battlefield, blowing away several rain nin. "So, this is the leader of this hut-infested dump, eh?" The commander turned to find that 100 rain ninja had surrounded him. Where they all were coming from, Shibuki had no idea, before he saw their commander. The commander had striking orange hair, with ringed, purple eyes, and multiple body piercings. He wore a strange necklace that looked somehow familiar. It was the Diva Path of Pain. The AIM ninja bowed before the being. "Our god." Shibuki had a sweat drop. God? The figure fixed to look at Shibuki. I have come for your Jinchuriki and the hero's water. Give them up, and we leave. He was about to continue before a trashed fruit stand's apples suddenly rose up and split into pieces, before flying at the diva path. With a strange jutsu, the apples were restrained and collapsed as if crushed. So, better than the apple shuriken, diva? Wind release, drilling air bullet. A harsh blast of wind flew from above and struck into the surrounding rain ninja, killing some while blowing the rest away. Jumping down following the air bullet was Taizun. Who are you, and how did you get into this village? Shibuki demanded. Taizun smirked under his haunted disguise. The same as they did. You know you should improve your security, perhaps get yourselves a giant squid or sea serpent or something? These guys all have air apparatuses for breathing underwater, and this guy doesn't even have to breath. He glared at the diva path. But, seeing as though we both have a common foe in this guy's group, we might as well take care of him. Water release, water bullet, and so the battle began. Meanwhile on the lake, Haku and Naruto dashed towards the lake, as a massive explosion flew from the lake. A girl with green hair and tanned skin was blasted out from below, before crashing and floating on the water, too exhausted to move. A man with spiky black hair and a blue aura rose up from the same place as well, WTIH a jug of clear water in his hands. So, you little insect, that was pretty impressive of you. That power of yours is definitely something, taking out those rain ninja, but luckily the last one happened to have a chakra-canceling seal, no. Now without your bug's help, you're squashed. The man flew at the girl with an intent to kill, as the girl forced herself up as if to try to defend. Ice release, ice manicles. The man found himself restrained by ice. Fu stared in shock. Why would these strangers help her? Lightning release, thunderball. Naruto formed a ball of lightning in his hands before sending it straight at the man, who had just broke out of the cuffs. The attack sent him flying back as the two-leaf genin ran to the downed Jinchuriki. You okay? Naruto asked, before the girl forced herself up, before collapsing back down. She cursed that seal may have been removed, but her chakra was still destabilized. However, I'm fine, she obviously lied, with a tone colder than Haku's ice release. Though, from what Shibuki had said, that was kind of expected. The man however wasn't done. So, helping the little monster, Well, prepare to find out what happens to demon lovers. Takigakure secret water release, water sword. A sword of water formed in the mont's hand as he flew at terrifying speeds. Oh no you don't, water release, great breakthrough. Ice release. Senbon shower. A giant wave and hundreds of ice needles flew straight at the man, who broke through them like they were nothing. What? Genjutsu. Paralysis. Haku and Naruto yelped as they lost feeling in their limbs. Die. He flew and swiped his sword, in aim at the still defenseless Fu. She stared in horror, like a deer in headlights, waiting for the blow that never came. Because Naruto had forced himself in the way of the attack, overpowering the Genjutsu, but now having a water sword sticking out of his gut. Naruto-kun. Haku gasped. Fu was stunned. This complete stranger took a mortal blow for her. Humpeth, kid that was stupid. But be glad to say you died today by the hand of the mighty Suien. The man laughed, until he noticed that Naruto was glowing orange. He was shocked, as was Fu. He's just like me. That chakra, it's the Kyubbi. While inside the seal, another of the links on the seal glowed, before revealing a new kanji, aura. While outside, the wound was healing, while a ball of blue chakra was forming in Naruto's hand. A mixture of the spiritual yin chakra Taisun's seal had been slowly returning, and the yang chakra of the nine-tailed fox. The ball slowly turned into a full blue sphere. What sort of jutsu? Aura release, aura sphere. Naruto sent the blue ball of chakra flying at Suin, who was sent flying across the link, skipping on it like a tossed stone, before he stabilized. You, demon brats. Fu, Haku and Naruto forced themselves up to prepare for battle. You fools think you're a match for me. I have the hero's water, I am invincible. Suin flew at the genin with amazing speed. Ice release, protective ice dome. Haku formed a dome of ice around the team, which Suin collided into. The impact shook the lake shore, sending ripples cascading from the impact zone. The ice was caked in cracks, but Suin had been forced back. Haku panted, that took a lot of chakra to hold. Aura release, aura sphere. Naruto charged up another sphere of powerful chakra, before sending it straight at Suin. His aura flared up, as the attack was held back by the chakra shroud. With a roar, Suin jumped into the sky, flying the brats with an intent to destroy. Water release, water dragon bullet. A water dragon roared up from the lake and flew straight at the three genin. The blast impacted them, sending them skipping across the lake shore, until they exploded into smoke. Shadow clones. Suin gasped before getting smacked harshly from behind by an enraged Fu, before crashing into the lake, the hero's water jug falling into the hands of Naruto and Haku. Fu landed next to them with a grin. Hey, that was actually good teamwork, Naruto and Haku grinned. I think this is a start to a great partnership, However, in a surge of chakra Suin forced himself back up from below the water's surface. I am not done with you fools yet. Naruto did a few rapid hand signs. Summoning jutsu. In a flash of smoke Mr. Ostrich appeared. Oddly, he was standing on the water, like a ninja. You little human. Why do you summon me all the way out here? The bird demanded. Fu seemed confused by the talking ostrich. Naruto gave Mr. Ostrich the hero's water. I need you to take this water and get to safety, Mr. Ostrich glared. A game of hide and go seek, boy. Well, it's either this or I get more ribbons on my neck, so shadow clone jutsu. A dozen ostriches formed next to the original before scattering. All the ninja here seemed disturbed. Did he just? I think he did. That is one strong bird, Suin thought. I should capture it, the ice girl, and these jinchuriki. I'd bet I could find a good price for them. Water release, water tornado. Storm release, great twister. Naruto and Suin collided with both of their tornado-like jutsu. Meanwhile, most of the AIM shinobi had fled, as the Diva Path continued its fight against Taizun and Shubiki. The problem with the paths, other than their obsessive amounts of piercings, creepy eyes and the amount of chakra they require from their controller, is the fact that they work the best as a full team. It appeared as though only the Diva Path was present here, as if their master didn't expect too much resistance. That was a mistake. Normally, the Atatsuki work in partners, but oddly the partner of the Diva's path controller, Kanan, wasn't present. Perhaps she was back in AIM, or again Taki might have been underestimated. Or perhaps, it wasn't Taki that they underestimated, but the unexpected arrival of Taizun. Shinra Tenshi. A orb of gravity stopped a fire bullet and water dragon jutsu straight from Taizun and Shibuki from striking the path of pain, though the path seemed to be quickly weakening. That thing is unreal, Shibuki panted, running low on chakra. Taizun was faring better. Hard to believe there are 6 of them. Let's be glad only one appears to be here. 6 of them. Who are you, and how do you know this? The Diva Path demanded. Taizun smirked. I am Taizun Uzumaki, the Wanderer, the Remnant, the Seal Sage, the Scroll Master. As to how I know about your tricks, Nagato, wielder of the Rinnegan, descendant of the same clan as myself and our lovely blonde-haired Jinchuriki friend, that is for me to know and you to find out. Wind release, violent wave palm. Wind release, hurricane gust. The 2 wind releases collided, releasing a massive explosion that flattened a few nearby huts. The Diva Path used the explosion to get behind Shibuki, who turned around rapidly. Fire release, Dragon Flame Jutsu. Water release, Weight Dragon Bullet. The 2 elemental dragons collided, but the fire dragon somehow overwhelmed the water one, and crashed into Shibuki, who was sent flying into a stall of fish and fell out conscious. Taizun smiled. Truly amazing, that much chakra force in a jutsu. Makes me wish I had the Rinnegan. What Naruto could do with it. Lightning release. Wave palm. A lightning version of Beast Wave Palm flew from Taizun's hand towards the path. Fire release. Great Fireball technique. The 2 techniques collided with a vengeance. Diva and Taizun gave one another a stare down. You're good, Taizun Uzumaki. Do you wish? No, I'm not joining your little cult. I have issues, serious issues, with the whole murdering Jinchuriki concept, and I don't trust 2 certain members of your group especially. Diva glared. Why do you fight us then? We will bring peace by pain. You caught the pain part, right? The fact is, I believe there is another way to bring forth peace, and I've already made the first plays on that notion. Naruto-kun shall be the one to bring peace and revive our clan. Diva looked confused. Why not yourself? The truth of the matter is there are reasons I can't. Moral for one thing, and at the same time, aura release, aura sphere. A blast of aura was sent at the path. Shinra Teshi. A orb of gravity blocked the sphere before it was sent back and with it destroyed a cabbage cart. Is that I can't pass tricks like that, but with my seal, Naruto-kun can. He, unlike me, needs that power to do what must be done. Quote, I see. So, you stand in our way. Well, Taizun Uzumaki, you shall meet your end by the hands of the 6 paths of pain. Until next time, the path teleported away. Taizun had an anime sweat drop. Cliché much? He turned around to observe the battle with Suin. He smiled. Show me your power, Naruto-kun, Haku-chan, Fu-chan. V's Suin. Water release, explosion. Air exploded from under Suin, sending him into the air. This guy just wouldn't give up, it was infuriating. Lightning release, thunderball. Naruto sent a ball of electricity flying at Suin, who used his aura to reflect it once more, before he was forced to reflect a dozen shuriken from Fu. Water release, wave impact. Suin crashed down onto the water's surface, sending hundreds of waves streaming towards Fu, Haku and Naruto. The genin jumped out of the way to avoid the impact. Before they got their chance, the aura around Suin was starting to fade. Wind release, frost wind. From Haku's mouth a frigid wind filled with ice crystals was blown towards Suin with high speed. Aura release. Aura sphere, the blue sphere was tossed into the attack as well. Fu tossed a group of shuriken into the mixture, before letting out. Shadow Shurikan Jutsu. The shuriken multiplied into thousands that surrounded and impacted into Suin, as the other attacks hit, sending him spiraling to the lake. We did it. Naruto cheered as the trio landed on the water's surface, before his eyes widened, as did Fu's and Haku's. Suin dissolved down into water, it was a water clone. Good, but not good enough, water prison jutsu. With a yelp, the trio were trapped in a water sphere. Suin was grinning evilly. So it ends, you fought well, but prepared to die, he smirked, as did Haku before she dissolved into water. Suin was shocked. A water clone. Naruto and Fu were grinning now. Ice release, demonic ice mirrors. 2 mirrors of ice formed around Suin. Haku didn't have enough chakra left to use any more of it. As reflections of her appeared in both, Suin was flabbergasted. How are you doing that? Ice release. Senbon shower. Hundreds of ice senbon flew from Haku's mirrors as she teleported rapidly, impaling themselves into Suin, breaking his control of the water prison, allowing Fu and Naruto to escape, and with a breath of air they were revigorated. Let's end this, shadow clone jutsu. Naruto created 5 shadow clones, before nodding towards Fu. She got the message, and jumped into the air. What the? 1. The original Naruto kicked Suin into the air. 2. A shadow clone headbutted him farther. 3. Another gave him a harsh blow to the stomach. 4. 5. 2 combined themselves for an extreme punch. 6. The last of the clones held onto Suin's limbs, now Fu-san. 7. Fu gave Suin the mother of all drop kicks, sending him crashing towards the water at mad speed. Now Haku. Gotcha. Haku cancelled the mirrors, before using ice release to freeze the surface of the lake into a solid ice block. Suin and the shadow clone holding him collided into the thick ice. The shadow clone exploded into smoke while Suin went limp. Haku collapsed to the water, her chakra was almost gone, and even Fu and Naruto felt drained, but they did it. With Naruto holding her up, they limped back to shore. On the shore, Taizun was smiling. Well done. Time skip. Hey, what are you doing here? Naruto demanded. Taizun just shrugged. Shibuki was back up and running, though he was unhappy. Because villagers had caught wind of the fact that the diva path had came for their Jinchuriki, they had unanimously voted for her banishment, though Shibuki was able to redefine it into a transfer to Konoha, in exchange for funds to help rebuild, funds from the former Uchiha accounts for sure. Now that the hero's water was safe once again, plans were being made for its increased protection. Hey, I saved Shibuki Dono's life, lay off me would ya? He did. Fu was smiling. Thank you, Taizun-san, for protecting my cousin. I am in your debt. Naruto and Haku gave her a look. Fu-san, this guy is a missing nin who attacked us for no reason. To give you the Kekkei Genkei, remember? Stole Mr. Ostrich. I was testing you. Caused the Teme to gain all those jutsu from the Chunin, as well as the Chidori. Now Taizun was looking abashed. Hey, that was a mistake, I admit that. What, I'm not perfect. Okay then, what do you want anyway? Taizun chuckled. To stop him. Who him? Taizun reached for a storage scroll in his pocket. You'll find out in time. But, Shibuki Dono, you really need to improve your waterside security, might I suggest? He began pulling out more summoning scrolls from his sealing scroll. More of them, Haku said shocked. Taizun smiled. You could say I'm a collector of ancient, lost summoning scrolls, and a creator of new ones. Let's see, Chinchilla. No, he tossed the scroll, with a glance, into Naruto's confused hands. Gibbon. No. Another scroll. Rabbit. Nah. The scroll landed upright, spun and then collapsed neatly. Squirrel. That's just nuts. The pun came with another tossed scroll. Flamingo. Possibly. He gave a look towards the lake. No, that wouldn't do. I know I have something workable in here. He tossed the scroll to Naruto again. Hey, what's with? Roadrunner. No, another tossed scroll to the Jinchuriki. Prayer dog. This one landed a perfect 10. Mackerel. Might be good for cutting a tree, but they're saltwater. So, more for Naruto. Dodo. Nah. Do I have to say it? Loch Ness Monster. Shibuki. You guys do a lot of fishing, right? Shibuki looked a little baffled, in fact they all were. Yes. Then that wouldn't do. Another scroll was given to Naruto. Now then. Beaver, that should do it. He tossed the scroll at the confused village leader. Nature's builders, I'm sure they'll work wonders here. Shibuki looked at the scroll like it was sacred treasure. And you're just giving me this? Taizun chuckled. Of course, I have a lot of them, and one man can't use 1,000 contracts, so why not give some out? Oh Naruto, you can keep those. He looked shocked. Huh? You're just giving me? Quite so. You see, I have reason to see the Uzumaki revived to their former glory. And artifacts like that are perfect for showing a strong clan. The Sarutobi are famous for their monkey summons, the Sabaku clan of Suna are infamous for their weasel summon. And I can see you having quite a few children, so a few contracts to go around doesn't hurt, no? Oh, while I'm at it, he tossed Naruto one more contract, have a Tuatara contract. A Tuafata? Taizun chuckled before vanishing in a swirl of leaves. The nearby ninja sweat dropped. What an odd fellow, Shibuki commented, but at least he seems to be on our side. You'd best be on your way home, to Fu-chan's new home that is, he smiled. Fu had tears in her eyes. Bye, Shibuki-san. Shibuku smiled sadly. Don't worry, you'll be able to see me again one day. And I'm sure Naruto-kun will make you happy. Naruto blushed as Haku fumed. Fu had an evil grin before grabbing Naruto's arm. Of course he will, after all. Naruto-kun's mine. Naruto seemed surprised, and Haku was fuming. Kun? Haku grabbed his other arm. No way, Naruto-kun's mine. Mine. Shibuki laughed at Naruto's curse/good fortune. Depending on how you looked at it. Meanwhile in Konoha, from out of nowhere, a bright light filled an isolated clearing in the forest. The light was coursing with colors, green, blue and reds. In Kumo, listen up brokage, I can see the music of Chunin in my students, and I'm wanting to see them promoted. But the exams ain't fallin' here for a year, but now they're falling in Konoha, so I was wonderin'. Two massively tall and muscled men. One with 7 swords on his back, shades and a tattoo of a bullhorn on his face. The other in robes like the Hokage, but yellow instead of red with a different kanji, were in a meeting. The other man sighed. B, you know quite well that we don't have the best relations with Konoha. The Hyuga alone would be ferocious with them. Don't sweat it bro, the B got it covered, the Raikage sighed. That's why I'm sweating. Okay, what if I send someone else with them? Yugito-chan perhaps. But bro, what's the worst that could happen? The Kage glared at his brother, the Hachabi Jinchuriki. Do I even have to answer that? In Suna, a boy with red hair, and a strange gourd on his back was star NG up at the moon from up top a building. The black rings around his eyes and his glare made him appear like the manifestation of terror. Soon mother, I will give you tasty foreign blood. Ah, this is the life, Fu sighed as she sunk into the warm water with a great big grin. Haku also found herself immersed in the water, the only two here as of now, before taking a look at her teammate. To her frustration, her breasts were a cup bigger than hers. That alone would give her an advantage for getting Naruto, besides her more revealing clothing. But she was curious about one thing. Fu-san, you have a lot of chakra, right? Fu gave her a curious look. Duh? Of course the maggot does, I'm inside of HER. So, why only AC? Haku couldn't put this any other way. It was a proven fact, a fact only looked into by perverts, aka Jiraiya, that females with larger chakra reserves had larger breasts. Tsunade of the Sannin, Maid Temari of Kirigakure, and Yugito ni, the Nanbi Jinchuriki, all had large chests thanks to their cage-level chakra reservers, or of course the giant flaming cat demon. Other kunoichi with larger chakra levels, like Anko, Kanan of Akatsuki and Hana Inazuka, had thus larger chests. It was rumored the same applied to males, though Jiraiya was not one to research it. Shibuki-sama told me that our family are late bloomers, Fu shrugged, and from what I could see from family photos, my mother didn't get anything until she was 15. So, another member for the large-chested family. While in the other end of the spectrum, those with lower chakra reserves, like herself, had smaller chests. That was one reason to work on building them up. And just as she was about to ponder the opposite of Tsunade on the spectrum of chakra levels. What are you whores doing here? One Banshee is transgender is, otherwise called Sakura Haruno, oops, Haruno. The pink-haired creature, with really nothing to cover with her towel, was standing in the doorway to the spring, seething. Did you hear something? Haku asked sarcastically. Fu smirked. Sounded like some fat ugly toad just croaked. No, that was way too obnoxious. Maybe someone kicked Tora and he hit a chalkboard as his claws. What is filth like you doing in a public hot spring? Shouldn't you be arguing over the baka's noodle? Haku and Fu got evil grins. Now, we could do that, but unlike you, what should we call her? I'd say bitch, but then again that's an insult to bitches. Well, I did read a book about naked mole rats. Fu commented. That works, okay then, unlike you naked mole rat, we don't need to get knocked up anytime soon. Also, our guy is decent, and not down to rape or theft. And Noodle, are you sure you're not going on about the Temayu stock? That got a ticked-off mark on Sakura's large forehead. Shut up, Sasuke-kun is 100 times the man the baka is. Billboard brow, would you take your tone down? I think my eardrums are burning. One blonde-haired girl in a purple towel with B-cups a bit larger than Haku's yelled after shoving the pink-haired loser out of the way. This was Ino Yamanaka, the most decent of the Sasuke stalkers, as in the only one with brains, skill, and boobs. Also on her redeeming quality list was that she was slowly moving out of her fangirl phase, though Haku had still seen prisoners with more flesh than this girl did. But these foreign bitches are registered ninja, billboard, they are perfectly entitled to their opinions, and what are you doing here? This is hot spring for people who are actually female. Ino leaned into Sakura, moking her with an actual chest. Yours should be down that away, with people more your style. I hear that it's 50% off for boys today. I am a girl. Oh, really? Then why are you 13 and flatter than a pancake? Fu chuckled, as Haku and Ino laughed. Sakura was furious. You just wait, I will have a chest that will flatten yours, flatten that of Tsunade herself. Sasuke will fly to me, and together, we will rule the village, and after we destroy the baka, you and that cowardly Hyuga will be Sasuke's bitches. She didn't finish her speech, as she was suddenly pushed out the window, into the skeptic tanks below, by a ticked-off blue-haired girl, Hinata Hyuga, in a blue towel. A scream of pure terror was heard seconds later, rippling the water, cracking the walls and causing a 2.0 earthquake in AIM somehow. Hinata-san, it's nice to see you. And thanks for removing that skeeter for us, Ino smiled. Hinata blushed as the two new girls entered the hot spring, their towels on the ground. Haku and Fu scowled internally. Hinata had a chest twice the size of Ino's. Damn, how does a 13-year-old have all of that? Haku grimaced. Even with this damn bug. Be silent human, I don't have that? Is that a Hyuga thing, or does she have, I don't know, the Jubi? Fu growled internally. They were thinking to themselves. You win this round, Hinata Hyuga, But Naruto-kun will be mine. Hokage's office, a week later. The Sandyami was starting to feel the stress of his old age again. Oh, how he would love to step down, but he didn't have anyone to replace him who had any qualification for the job. Shikaku was too lazy. Kakashi was the same way and reluctant to take the mantle up. Hiashi could possibly do it, but leaving the Hyuga elders to their own devices was something he nor Hiashi wanted to do. Guy, no, anything but that. He didn't want a change in shinobi uniform or teaching style. All he needed was for Naruto to start yelling out, "Flames of Youth." He'd almost prefer letting the QB out than to see that. Well, maybe ladies in those green jumpsuits were a totally different story. But the problem was, the civilian and elder councils just had a stroke of uncharacteristic genius, and the Hokage had barely been able to divert disaster. The problem had been so big, he had barely any time to rewrite his law to include Fu and the Nanabi, to protect her from visiting Taki Ninja, something he sent a message to Shibuki about as well. For years, the councils had been trying to get a shinobi council member on their side. If they had just one more vote over the shinobi, they'd be able to do anything to benefit their goals. Increase taxes on shinobi and shinobi goods, exile Naruto, give Sasuke all the females in the village, exile Naruto, gain hidden secrets from the Yondiami, exile Naruto, wage war for the fun of it, exile Naruto. They really wanted to exile Naruto. But luckily, the shinobi council was uncorruptible. Well, maybe if they paid for a all-you-can-eat meal for the Akamichi or voted to remove all cats for the Inuzuka, they might have luck, but so far they hadn't tried that. But then, they managed to pull off a new highest by bringing up a vote for a new seat on each of the two respective councils, elders excluded. The shinobi agreed, thinking this was just a method to try to get another obnoxious anti-Naruto voice with them. They had been considering adding a shinobi from one of the newer clans. The Morino were high on the list, and perhaps Guy for Spirit. But they already put the Hag on it. The Haruno was now on the shinobi council. Apparently, the evil old hag had tested herself and her daughter, and found out that their voices had come from some sort of Kekkei Genkei the Haruno had. This mega voice release or something qualified her family as a ninja clan now, and now they could replace her spot on their side with a new anti-Narutodist and take control. However, the Sandyami had a trick of his own. He nominated his own member for the civilian council, to replace the one Enko killed, Tuchi. As a registered landowner of Konoha, being the administrator of the former Uchiha district, now being repainted as the Uzumaki district, as appointed by Naruto, he could be placed on the council. With that, the balance was the same as before, so Naruto no longer was in immediate danger. However, they still had a loss. The council used the new Haruno Kekkei Genkei to force Kakashi to focus on Training Team 7, now with Sai, Sakura and Sasuke, because of the potential danger of the new release, as stated in some bill they had passed years ago. Luckily, the now Team 11, with Naruto, Haku and Fu, were working rather well together. Naruto was getting help on using his QB powers from Fu and was practicing chakra control with Haku. Fu was getting jutsu practice from both Naruto and Haku was training to increase her chakra reserves with Fu and Naruto. They had recently completed a set of 14 D-rank missions, thanks in no part to Naruto's shadow clones, Haku's control of chakra, and Fu's strength, which was put into use for destroying boulders. This was to help start up Fu's bank account, and keep Naruto's and Haku's up. They needed it now that they had their own house, the old Yondiami place, and it was amusing to see how they took it. Flashback, day they returned. Oji-san, why did you drag us up here for anyway? Did the civilian council say I robbed a bank or something? Naruto complained with Fu and Haku next to him. The Sandyami had to admit they'd probably do that. Of course, he knew quite well Naruto didn't have a hope in hell of doing it, and the fact that Fu and Haku would pound him into next week if he even brought it up. No, they didn't, though don't give them any ideas. I'm here, Naruto, to talk about your heritage. Naruto looked confused. My heritage? Naruto said in confusion. The Sandyami nodded. Yes, originally I had planned to wait until you were a chunin, or the hope that you'd be mature enough to handle it. However, with your lack of housing resulting from the civilian councils, and the oddity of using shinobi residencies, true enough, spending another day in the Inuzuka might be a little risky. After all, Naruto's bed was also in the room of an old Pomeranian that had existed in the clan since its founding, which the clan affectionately nicknamed Old Puffball, or Puffy-san, who disliked Naruto immensely, and barked loudly, stole his shoes and nightcap, and ate his ramen just to annoy him. However, I believe it's time for you to know the truth about who you are. Who I am, Naruto said, confused. Fu and Haku seemed interested as well. Naruto-kun, you are the son of Uzumaki Kushina, the last Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox, and the Yondiemi. At that, Naruto pulled a Hinata, that is faint. Naruto-kun. 30 minutes later, Naruto blinked, to find himself staring into the faces of Haku and Fu, both with concern. The Sandiemi was patiently waiting at his desk, with his Icha-Icha book in his hands. After all, since he got Enbu stationed around the roof and did a sweep of his tower, he was certain he was free from spies this time. It's amazing, he found 10 listening jutsu, 8 recording jutsu and 1 remote detonation jutsu. Did they want to kill him if it got worse for their story Naruto agenda? Haku-chan, Fu-chan, Oji-san, I had the strangest dream that I was told the Yondiemi was my father. Naruto-kun, that wasn't a dream, Fu brought up. That prompted another faint and an evil grin on Haku's face. Naruto, wake up, or I'm testing my new ice release ball implosion. I'm up, Naruto said instantly. They chuckled at that. Interesting, remind me never to get her mad, the Sandiemi said to himself. But never mind that, yes, you are his son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Naruto seemed to be thinking. Hey, if I'm his son, I can sort of get why I have the fox inside me, the whole noble leader. Me being born at the wrong time thing, but why keep it a secret? If I was told to be his son, I'd be about as worshipped as the Teme, and why hasn't anyone ever picked up on our similar looks? I have no idea, though I've wondered if some have guessed that. Kakashi for one probably knows, and I believe that a few of our more open-minded, aware ninja also guessed it, like Maruboshi Kosuke. You mean the 1,000-year genin? Yes, him, and be respectful, that man is Jonin level. He just has his reasons for staying a genin, and I think Shikaku knows it as well as Puffy-san. The evil Pomeraian. Yes, him. I remember when he first met Minato-kun, the little guy and him hated each other, memories. Back to Naruto-kun? Fu asked. He coughed. Yes, and if you must know why it's not common knowledge, first of all if you got wind of it, they'd hunt you down and kill you for spite. Onoki Dono was never one to forget vendettas, and after what Minato did to them in battle, I think they still mourn that day. Well, at least I have a cool dad. True, and second of all, the council would have used you to not only gain your father's seals and possessions, but also you'd probably be worse than Sasuke, Naruto shivered. Worse than that? Yes, he at least had some actual, non-spoiled time in his life. If they had raised you from birth, you'd be much worse, Naruto was seeing the Hokage's point. So, where's his house? The Hokage smiled. It's hidden using powerful seals. Your father had taken several precautions due to Iwa's feelings about him, and his strong stand against the acts of the councils. I'm the first to admit I've given the civilians a bit too much leeway. My attempts to keep peace have only made those fools arrogant, and Minato had reversed several of their policies, like increasing ninja restrictions to weed out fake civilian ninja and fangirls, removing shinobi property taxes, and allowing this ninja to eat cheese again. The Hokage smiled. The genin gave him a strange look. I'm not kidding. They managed to ban cheese from shinobi because they were annoyed at the Akamichi Pizza Festival for its songs. Well, back on topic, his house is currently only accessible by a hidden kunai mechanism. You all are aware of his famed, flying thunder god, technique, right? They nodded. Well, he kept 2 kunai hidden. One at his house, the other here. The Hokage removed a different style kunai from his robes, with seal marks and a lighter, flatter blade, for access to his home. However, it only works from my office. Once I can announce it to the public who you are, I have to hold on to his key for security. Only someone with his blood can work it, or Kakashi's, as we found out when we started to renovate the place. So, that's why the man always late, Fu commented. The Hokage laughed. No, actually that occurred after your D ranks. Fu looked disturbed. So Naruto-kun, I take it you and your girls want to check out your home? Well, please try to be discreet with it, only do it when you three are alone with me after your missions, and don't do anything you shouldn't. Naruto fainted again, while Fu and Haku chuckled. Flashback ends. The house, as the Hokage had saw, was actually quite the nice place. 3 stories, 9 bedrooms, and enough room to expand. It appeared as though Minato was hoping to restart the Uzumaki clan here. Sadly, that's a bit harder to do when the last of a clan is female. One male can repopulate a clan faster than one female can. The Anbu had done a fine job cleaning the place up, and now with Naruto having his own bed again, with no Pomeranian trying to aggravate him. And he knew quite well that Sasuke, Sakura, and the councils had attempted to follow him, at times even demanding to be shown where they were going. To that, the 3 had laughed, and Haku had actually gotten a chance to test that ice release ball implosion on one of the Chunin that the civilian council had control of. The poor man had gotten memory loss from the pain, and the Hokage, after hearing about it, labeled it a kinjutsu. Naruto had discovered the library of seals, and quickly saw why the Hokage wanted them protected. There were seals that did anything for speed up pancake cooking to creating total sterility. In theory, the council could have a million incentives and punishments at the disposal, that in reality would require little chakra or skill to start, though they would have problems creating them. Naruto didn't. He quickly saw his clan's fabled skills with seals come through. On his own, he created a new anti-Sharingan seal for Fu, and deduced that the 6-pronged web seal on Fu's back that locked the Nanabi inside her was a lower grade than his own 8-element seal, about the same level as the iron armor seal. They also got a chance to lock up all the accumulating summoning scrolls. Frankly, while Fu had signed the beetle contract, who worshipped her as princess for having their queen inside her, to Fu's delight, and Haku signed the aligned penguin and rabbit contracts, and had a rather decent relation with both, Naruto had found a note in the Tuatara one, stating, "Naruto, do not use any of these until you obtain the one of your father from the perverted sage." Whoever this perverted sage was, Naruto would kick his ass until he gave him that contract. Anything from his father would be nice, at the same time he would find it cool to summon giant squids or the Loch Ness monster. All the things he could prank with some of those guys. But now, the group found themselves awaiting a mission. Naruto-kun, Haku-chan, Fu-chan, it is time to give you a B-rank mission once again. The 3 of you are to go to the land of the sea to investigate some rumors about Orochimaru being active in the area. Now, I'd send Chunin or Jonin for such a mission, but I think a high-level mission will help make sure you 3 are prepared for the Chunin exams. At the same time, getting you 3 out of this town will help lower the council's investigation into your housing. Naruto grinned. You can count on us, Oji-san. Databio. Fu was suddenly glad she picked up a swimsuit. On the coast of the wave country, at the crack of dawn, sat the great Naruto Bridge. This magnificent bridge, however, was in trouble. A section of the support had fallen off, due to a mistake in construction. This had to be replaced, but the recovering country was having trouble locating cement or stone to fill the hole. So, the hole in the support, the size of a young teenager, was being held up by a peculiar kid, with perhaps the strangest appearance of any Konoha-genin. This boy had black hair, shaped like a bowl, and immense eyebrows the size of jumbo pipe cleaners, and huge, wide eyes. To further show off his bizarreness, he had a green jumpsuit, with his head as a belt, and orange leg warmers. "Lee, what exactly are you doing?" one of his teammates decided to ask. This genin had brown hair, and pale eyes like Hinata's, but a different shade. He also didn't appear quite as nice, but more like the character of his clan portrayed. A clan of silent people with little emotions and disturbing stares. Ah yes, Neji, because the support system of this bridge was giving out, I decided it would be a good test of my endurance to hold it up myself. I've been at it for 12 hours straight, and even though I have to use the restroom quite badly, and the fact that I may be hallucinating from thirst and saw a ninja lemur fighting a samurai buffalo, I will not move from my post until Guy-sensei and Tenten return with the supplies. Now, this kind of behavior was sort of over the top, even for his teammate and his equally weird sensei. Lee, this bridge weighs over 1,200 tons, and holding your bladder for too long can cause damage to your kidneys. Also, you really should have some water. This Lee briefly removed his arm and gave a thumbs-up smile. Don't worry, Neji, I shall hold this until Guy-sensei returns, and should I fail in this task, I shall run across the bay to wave and back again while yodeling. Neji's sweat dropped. Lee had adopted all of his sensei's styles, and that include those strange self-inflicted punishments. And the yodeling, oddly for the stoic genin, he found himself shivering. This is one of the many reasons he needed a therapist. Besides the fact he has emotional trauma for his father's death and a desire to kill his cousin Hinata-sama. Though some liquid refreshment may be most obliged, may I have a sip of your own canteen? Mine's empty. Land of the sea, seaside village. Wow, this place is a. Fu started before Naruto interrupted her. Like Wave. The village was a wooden shamble of buildings dotting the sea coast. This place appeared to be quite poor, though not to the point Wave had been when Haku and Naruto had been there. Though there was a lack of hopelessness in the air that Wave had had at the time, and a nicer view of the sea. Well, I was going to say dump, but that works too, Fu shrugged. Guys, we aren't here to focus on the economics of this place, we're here to search out Orochimaru or anything else strange. So let's agree to meet up here again in an hour. Try to dig something up, Haku said, being the reasonable amongst the three. Boy, that was sad. Secret underground area of Konoha. So, how has your tenure as a genin been? Danzo asked of his root ninja. He didn't call him by name, as the ninja of root had none, just their code names. In an emotionless face and tone, Sai answered. So far, as you predicted, Team 7 shows signs of dangerous emotional imbalance. Both Sakura-san and Sasuke-san are controlled by their emotions, and prone to rampages should they get frustrated. It is obvious Kakashi-senpai doesn't like teaching them, but is being forced by the councils to. However, that is not to say that Sasuke has no talent, unlike Sakura-san. However, this power has led to arrogance, Danzo sighed. All this talent, from both Sasuke and Naruto, and yet emotions rule them. He also saw potential in Fu, that Hyuga trained by the Green Beast, Imbecile Might Guy, and the Aburame child. However, he didn't want to bother with some of the others. The female Hyuga, by all indications, was too weak, the genin who imitated Guy was too weird, and the Inuzuka required a dog to work properly, which would be much too suspicious. That was a large reason as to why there were no Inuzuka en route. Good work, continue with your tenure. Hi. Danzo turned around and sighed. The village was being ruined, thanks to those idiots on the civilian and elder councils. He also knew the Sandiami, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was to blame for it to a lesser extent. His policies made it far too easy for the councils to influence and force regulations on ninja. They also flooded the ranks with less than trustworthy civilian ninja, and while he had some skilled ones in his route, such as Sai, those outside his system were not versed well enough to be truly effective shinobi. Shinobi either had to be born by shinobi, or taken from their non-shinobi parents, or else they show weakness. Undisputable females were nothing more than temporary fixtures, attaching to shinobi of skill like parasites, like that Haruno that was with the Uchiha. Either that or they lacked the special skills, like that student of Guy's who did nothing but toss weapons like a maniac. One day, when he was Hokage, he would deal with these inadequacies and fix the flaws of this village's shinobi. No more fangirls, weapon chuckers, or emotionally unstable Jinchuriki. They would all be trained his way. He'd remove their emotions and train them to be perfect shinobi. No anger, no jealousy, and none of that love mush. Children shouldn't be born because the parents liked one another, they should be born by the right combination of genetics. For example, crossbreeding one of the Jinchuriki and a Hyuga, in theory could create offspring with the special chakra of a Jinchuriki inside the Hyuga. With that, the gentle fist could permanently burn a person's chakra point, making the gentle fist even more potent. And he would enforce a dress code. Ninja whose dress was indecent, like Anko's net suit or the jumpsuit of Guy and his spawn, and while he was at it, he'd shave their eyebrows. Those things weren't natural. Back to Wave. Naruto was having no luck at all. No one here had even heard the name, Orochimaru. Most shinobi who heard that name cringed or heard it in bingo books, but of course, they had to be in Civilian Central. All the ignorance, and then some with no shinobi help. Speaking of ignorance, get out here. Naruto turned around to see a girl about his age, with black hair and a blue dress, who was covered in bandages, shoved out of fruit market, Ryo coins and dollars being tossed out with her. You monster. Now that was a low blow. Naruto had seen enough of that for himself when people in Konoha had treated him like that, and Fu had described having similar treatment in Taki, but why here? No one here could even explain the basics of seals, nonetheless seal a bu into someone, so this person couldn't be a Jinchuriki? Naruto, of course being a good person, went to help her up. You okay? He asked. The girl gazed at him with black eyes, before pushing herself up. Yeah, I'm fine, she said with no emotion. Naruto looked at the market. So, I could get your groceries, for you if you want? The girl glared at him with distrust evident in her eyes. No, that won't be necessary. She ran from him. Naruto turned to follow, before he sensed Fu and Haku appeared behind him. He turned to see their gazes burrowing into high. So, you have any luck? He asked. They sighed. None whatever. Me neither, but Naruto-kun, who was that girl? Fu demanded. Naruto shrugged. I don't know, but the strangest thing is, they called her a demon and kicked her out of a store despite having money on her. Sound familiar? Fu and Haku exchanged confused glances. Sure, it's just like home, Fu scowled. But why would there be a Jinchuriki here? Haku held her chin for a moment. If she was a Jinchuriki at all. Though, she definitely is being treated like one. I think we should try following her. Fu and Naruto looked at her in confusion. I mean, Orochimaru is rumored to be around, and this girl is oddly hated. Perhaps it might be connected. Fu nodded, but turned towards Naruto. But this doesn't mean you can go on a date with her. Naruto gave her a confused look. Huh? Because I'm taking you out first. Haku now looked ticked. No, I will. Girls, mission. Oh, right. A short pursuit later. Naruto and the girls followed Isaribi a ways away, finding themselves on a deserted beach. Oddly, her tracks ended here. Odd. Wonder if she took to the water to throw us off? Haku pondered. But she didn't know she was being followed, Naruto pointed out. So what reason would she have to hide her tracks? The villagers, perhaps? Naruto growled at their mentioning. Treating someone like that, you know I'm tempted to just destroy the place with a few shadow clones and a couple of twisters. Fu grinned. Got room for me? Haku decided to intercept the arson planning. Guys, we have a mission, and burning a village isn't in our job description. Earth release, 3-limb binds. From out of nowhere, binds of solid earth rose from the sand, restraining Naruto, Fu and Haku's feet in one of theirs hands. In vain they tried to break free of the Ethan bounds. Oh, I'm sorry you dead last fox, but you have no hope of escaping my fox trap, or this. A voice laughed, as a Fuma shuriken flew from out of nowhere and straight at Naruto. Summoning jutsu, Shirudorabito. Haku yelled out before doing one-handed hand seals. In a pofo of smoke, a white rabbit with oddly long ears appeared in the battle. With a spin of its ears, the rabbit found itself spinning like a ultimate shield, and with it knocked the Fuma shuriken off its course and into the surf. The rabbit vanished soon after. So, you have a few vixen whores now, fox? The voice rang out again. Naruto's eye widened, he knew the voice. Mizuki Teme. A voice laughed. So, the dead last demon actually can use its brain? From out of nowhere, a blue-haired man in a black muscle shirt with slight insanity in his eyes appeared and laughed. Wait, you're that Teme who tried to kill Naruto-kun. Haku had heard the stories. Mizuki laughed. Oh, this is priceless. How does an idiot freak like you get any sort of company that wasn't from pity or spite? Genjustu, but wait, you can't. I made sure of that. He laughed. The three glared at him. Ice release, ball implosion. Mizuki laughed. Oh, you're that ice bitch I've been hearing about? And if you're talking about that little trick that this monster probably taught you, it's no use. That demon beat me to a point my balls were busted. For that I will kill you. Fu growled. She had enough fucks like this back at her old village, though the insanity was a nice touch. Earth release, shattering earth. He smashed his palm into the ground, as a giant crack began opening up in the sand, linking with the ocean, and thus the three found themselves tumbling into the surf below. Ice release, ice dome. Haku formed a ice shield to protect them from sinking, hopefully. Stupid rock bind. You won't get away that easy, bitches. Meanwhile on Demon Island. So, you're the new recruit that Orochimaru-sama sent to inspect my operations, Well, make yourself at home. Amachi, the short, graying man who was in charge of this facility, was interrupted by the following colorful sentence. So, this fucking cave of crap is your home, trash? Well, your bitch of a mother must be so proud? This voice belonged to a fiery red-haired kunoichi in pale brown, white clothing with a strange purple tubal-like belt. Her brown eyes had a look that clearly said, I don't want to be here. So, I see Sakin-kun's warning about your language was accurate, to Yuya-chan. Don't call me Chan, you limp-ed gay cocksucker. Orochimaru-sama has a order for you, so fucking do it. She gave him an official-looking letter, apparently begrudgingly. He grinned. Interesting, very interesting. A fertility stimulant? Trying to get a little one. No fucking way, asshole. Like I want to be dealing with this shit, but guess what, I fucking have to. Now get to it, head, or else I'm going to fucking rip out your ass. Now, Yuya was many things. The swear queen of the sound, the demonic flutist, but she was in an unusually poor mood. The redhead, besides not really wanting to be here at all, was in a poor mood because of her leader's orders. Of course, it wasn't like she'd even really liked the pedophilic snake anyway. Of the members of the Sound Four, she was the only one who didn't come to him on their own. She didn't want power, fame, or sought out powerful chakra to eat. The pale bastard had attacked the village she'd lived in 6 years ago, when she was just 8 years ago. A member of the Mifyu clan, a clan of demon summoners from the land of demons, the Mifyu were the only ones in possession of a demon summoning contract, for the race of Doki. Because of their potential to possibly control demons, like the tailed beasts, Orochimaru and a strange hunchbacked man, both of them wearing black cloaks with red clouds, came out of nowhere and sought out their secrets. The clan had fought bravely, but they all were slaughtered. All but her, of course. But she had been told to run by her mother, and missed the wrath of the attack. But she ended up as an orphan, living in the streets of a city in the land of swamps for 3 years, until the bastard found her and took her with him. She recognized him, though, and tried to run. But the bastard bit her on her neck, and forced on her a curse seal. The damn thing hurt for 5 agonizing days, with no ability to sleep, relax, or even really to think. And while she did enjoy the power it gave her, it was also the instrument of her enslavement. The cursed seal she'd been given was slightly different than the other seals of the Sound Four. Hirobo's was designed more for his taijutsu, Kidomaru's was designed to increase his accuracy with the third eye, and Sakin and Yukon's was designed to coexist with their fusion Kekkei Genkei. What hers was a slave collar. The cursed seal's added effect was to restrain her free will whenever Orochimaru ordered her to do something. Luckily for her, the pedophile appeared to be gay, so he didn't rape her using his power. Instead, he ordered her to obtain fertility booster from Amachi, so she could carry the Uchiha's child. The pedophile had his eyes on the young Uchiha, last scion of the Sharingan that he had any hope of obtaining. Madara was too powerful to take, Itachi was protected by the Akatsuki, and Kakashi wouldn't work. He needed both of his new eyes for the Sharingan he wanted. He planned to lure the boy to him, by using the power of the cursed seal. The boy was obsessed with gaining power, and Orochimaru could easily show that he could give him it. Of course, the bastard would just possess him and obtain his Kekkei Genkei for his own purposes. However, the pedophile was no idiot. He knew quite well that he wouldn't retain the Sharingan after he would have to eventually go to another body. So that's where she came in. She, a sound genin named Kin, and several others were to be used to breed a new clan of Uchiha in Otogakure. A clan who'd be conditioned from birth to be able and begging to allow Orochimaru to possess them. Their spy, Kabuto, had reported the genins arrogant and perverted Demonor. The kid would rape them without restraint. And because of this damn fertility drug she was forced to get, the kid would have no problem conceiving a new generation. With a sigh, she followed the man into the main laboratory. On the shore of Demon Island. Finally, land. Naruto collapsed onto the beach, kissing the ground. Fu and Haku seemed relieved as well. Because of that ass Mizuki, the 3 of them had been knocked into the sea in the ice dome, and had been set adrift by the current. It had been a grueling 6 hours, locked up, freezing in the ice dome, and unable to use the bathroom. Speaking off, after a few bathroom breaks, Naruto, Fu and Haku decided to get serious. Okay, this must be one of the islands, so let's see if we can find a village or something and get off this place, Haku surmised. Naruto and Fu nodded in agreement. You know, I wonder if this is the island that girl came from, Naruto asked. Fu and Haku gave him a look. What? I can't be curious. Haku shook her head. Sorry, I guess I might be a little paranoid, she apologized. Fu though still seemed annoyed. Though that was understandable, she was a little more protective of him than Haku was, though she was getting better. Picking up a rock in her hand, Fu shrugged. Okay, maybe I am, I guess, but if that girl makes any sort of move, I'm going to. She crushed the rock in her bare hands, a clear enough message. Naruto nervously nodded, before turning in the direction of the sinking sun, and spotted something green rise from the water near a body of rocks. Hey, what the hell is that? Naruto yelled. The green thing looked at him, before it ran into the rock body and passed through it. Naruto, Fu and Haku blinked. I think we should check that out, Fu commented. You think? Inside the lab. So, what the fuck are you doing in here anyway? Tayuya said with a disgusted tone, seeing all the bodies suspended in green liquid that reminded her disgustingly of pickle juice. Amachi grinned. This is where the magic of progress is made. With everything here, I can create anything. A spider that breathes fire, a rat capable of chewing through steel, or even entirely new Kekkei Genkai. Tayuya rose an eyebrow. New Kekkei Genkai? Yes, I'm sure you've heard of my progress in creating the ultimate water Kekkei Genkai, allowing one with the ability to breathe underwater, withstand thousands of pounds of water pressure, and increase their overall strength and resilience tenfold. My prototype is already a brilliant success. She's already managed to single-handedly destroy 5 ships, and has brought me plenty of supplies for my continued research, food, and even a PlayStation. Tayuya gave him a look. What? Even an evil scientist likes a bit of Guitar Hero once in a while. I also wanted to test her mental ability, and I'm proud to say her mental skills haven't decreased due to the experimentation. He heard a running noise, and turned around, as did Tayuya. Running in was the girl that Naruto had tried to help Iriler, but her bandages were gone, revealing that the areas covered by the bandages were coated in green scales. This was what he did, and to a child at that. At least their curse marks could be hidden discreetly. Tayuya felt a little sick. This guy may just be worse than the pedophile that controlled her. Ah, my brilliant success. How was the swim? Amachi asked. Any interesting occurrences, any defects? I must know Isarabi-chan. The girl looked down. It was good, no problems. Is something the matter? You do realize, if you don't do as I say, I won't turn you back to normal once the experiment is completed. Tayuya glared at him. She knew quite well from Orochimaru's experiments that this sort of thing wasn't reversible. This creep was just using her, like some disposable kunai. If only Orochimaru hadn't ordered her to get the fertility drugs from this guy, then she'd push him off a cliff. Of course, once he gave them to her, she could always push him off the cliff. Nothing in her orders against that. Well, when I came up on the island, there were 3 others on the island. Amachi seemed interested. 3 others? On the island, He reached for an earpiece in his left ear. Yes, Mizuki-kun. We have intruders, deal with them would you? Yes, of course you have to. I let you out after all. In the cave, Naruto, Fu and Haku walked through the dimly lit caves of this unknown facility. Nervously, Haku's hand found its way to Naruto's, and Fu, not being undone, grabbed his other. You know I have to give this place credit. The evil rating is quite impressive, Fu nervously chuckled. All that's needed is the monster and a bit of evil laughter. Fu-chan, that sounds a little cliché, Databio, Naruto mumbled. Then from out of nowhere, a dark shape flew down the corridor, a Fuma shuriken. Hit the ground. The team dropped to the ground as the shuriken passed over them and hit the ground. An evil chorus of laughs permeated the air. Well, there's the evil laughter you wanted, Haku commented, as Mizuki became visible in the dim murk of the cave. Well, if it isn't the fox and his vixens. I was hoping you'd survive, because if you were just crushed by rocks, that wouldn't be nearly as much fun. Instead, why not draw it out, as you squirm in agony? Oh really, Teme? This time, things are going to be different. You don't have the drop on us like last time, and I beat you as an academy student. I can sure as hell do it now. Mizuki glared in fury. You surprised me that time, but this time, you're going to die. He drew another Fuma shuriken and sent it flying. Shadow Shurikan Jutsu. The single Fuma began a swarm of 30 of the deadly weapons, all flying at the genin. Wind release, frosty wind. Haku took a deep breath, before a gust of wind flew at the shuriken, blowing them off their trajectory and hitting the ground before the duplicates vanished in puffs of smoke. Damn whore! Mizuki growled before doing a few hand signs. Earth release. Sinkhole. A sinkhole of spiraling earth formed at the trio's feet, slowly pulling them down. The trio attempted to break out, before they grinned. Ha ha. They made a few faces at Mizuki before exploding into smoke. Shadow clones. Damn right, idiot. Fu smashed into him with a ferocious kick, sending him into the wall, breaking the wall in the process. With a groan, he forced himself out. You little fox whores, can't beat me. He laughed, Earth style, 3 limbs bind. Fu, Haku and Naruto found themselves bound by the earth once again. Hey, let us out. Naruto cried out. Sorry, but no can do fox. This time, I'm going to make sure you stay dead. Mizuki grinned as via puffs of smoke, dozens of exploding tags appeared on the walls around them. With these delayed bombs, I'll be able to get away, while you 3 are blasted all the way to hell. So, any last words, fox demon? Naruto smirked. Just one, Fu now. Earth release. Earth-style wall. The broken wall that Mizuki had planned to escape from was blocked by a new wall of earth, adorned with betals. Then with a laugh, Fu, Haku and Naruto exploded into smoke. More shadow clones. Fuck them. The bombs went off, engulfing the room in fire. From behind the wall, the genin sighed. Well, he's dead, Fu commented. No way in hell anyone could survive all of that. Now, let's find the green thing. In the laboratory, an explosion shook the lab, startling Isaribi, Tayuya and Amachi. The scientist smiled. So, it appears that Mizuki-kun has taken care of our little intruders, Isarabi huffed. That man, if you ask me, it's more likely he blew himself up. The idiot, Amachi smiled madly. Quite possible as well, my dear. But no matter, I believe it is time you go, my dear Tayuya-chan. I fucking told you not to. Tayuya was cut off as from out of nowhere. Streams of water rose up from the nearby ocean and restrained the furious redhead, as a huge mass rose from the water. The evil doctor grinned. What in hell are you doing, you bastard? Tayuya yelled, before she started writhing in pain. He laughed as Isarabi cringed. This, my dear, is my umabozu, my ultimate creation. My indestructible monster. And, now it's absorbing information on that little curse mark of yours. Be free to give your last words now. I still haven't worked out the sound defect in him, Tayuya growled. That baka you work under thought he could cut off funding for my work, Well, now I'm going to take his work, and use it to destroy him. Then, with Umabozu and my future masterpieces, I shall take over the sea and rule as the first marine emperor. Tayuya looked furious. Oh Kami, if I have to be screwed by some evil bastard, can't at least it be a bastard with ambition? Ah, you foolish little girl, the sea is everything. Few can truly control it, but from it, one gains gold, silver, iron. With my future minions, I will mine the sea's riches, with the foolish ninja of even Kiri unable to stop me, until it's too late and I invade the land. And unlike the land, I can attack anywhere without warning. First I can strike the land of sound, then the land of fire, and then the land of lightning. As you can see, the sea is endless possibility. But first, Umabozu needs 2 full meals to reach its true power. He turned his head, like an evil owl, towards Isaribi. Her eyes widened. No, you promised. Yeah, I lied. A stream of water from Umabozu grabbed Isarabi, before sucking her in. Struggling to get free, Isarabi found herself transforming. Green scales covered her body as fins grew on her hands. Tayuya's eyes were wide. You sick bastard, you'd do that to an innocent girl. Amachi laughed. Of course I would. I needed a test subject, and she was all I needed. Suddenly, his cloth started to rip, as the old man was replaced by an upright, bluish-green creature like Isarabi. To perfect my ultimate form. Behold, the face that will become the first marine emperor. Aura release. Aura sphere. A blue sphere flew from the shadows and struck Amachi, sending him into the wall. Naruto, Fu and Haku burst out, panting. Wow, that maze of a hallway system has a lot of dead ends, Haku panted. Naruto forced himself to breathe normally, before looking up at Isaribi. So, that's why people call you a monster. Isarabi looked down. You know, I don't see it. Isarabi looked up at him with tears in her eyes. But look at me, I'm a freak, a monster. She sighed. Naruto shook his head. Trust me, I've seen much worse than you. Interesting. A Jinchuriki. And the Kyuubi's one at that. Amachi forced himself up from his place of impact. You make fine food for my umabozu. Devour them, and steal their strength. The giant water behemoth roared and sent tendrils of water to capture Fu, Haku and Naruto. Storm release, Great Twister. Naruto formed a twister that struck the tendrils and sucked them up. Storm release, Water Spout. Now a water spout, the twister struck Umabozu in the heart, causing it to fall. Isaribi and Tayuya hit the ground and panted for air. Naruto ended his jutsu and landed the ground. You saved me, but you don't even know me, Isaribi said in confusion. Naruto smiled. It doesn't matter who, I'm not going to allow anyone to be eaten by that giant blob, Fishy-san. Isaribi blushed. Fu and Haku growled. While they knew that wasn't flirting, just the fact that Naruto didn't know the girl's name, they didn't need any more competition than what they'd get from Hinata. But then Haku's eyes went wide. Ice release, Ice Dome. A dome of ice surrounded Isaribi, Tayuya and Naruto, as Umabozu reformed and smashed down on them. You fools, you can't destroy Umibozu unless you evaporate the sea itself, it is immortal. Amachi charged into the fray. Thus, my dynasty will be immortal. Town with hot springs. Taizun was in a coffee shop, sipping a cup of decaf. On the other side of his table sat a tall, red-headed lady. She was wearing a black tank top, think of a black version of Sakura's Shippuden wear, and shorts, with fishnet armor covering her arms and legs. The lady was smirking evilly. Ah, so it appears our little Naruto has just found himself a few new ladies? He's such a player, don't you agree, Taizun-kun? Taizun sighed. I think we both know it's not that, Fluffy-chan. Don't call me that. Our young heir to my clan isn't doing anything to attract girls, except being himself. It is well known that a caring guy like Naruto-kun will naturally attract females. The seal just speeds the process up. But really, Tai-kun, you could have let me add a bit more to the seal formation. The girl who Taizun had called Fluffy whined. He sighed. You have no skills with seals, Fluffy. What did I say about calling me that? The seal you wanted to add would cause any female who's fertile to swarm him. A more minor pheromone booster is much more decent. It only increases his attraction as viewed by compatible females. Of course it is, I was the one to decide which females would be the best to set our little Naruto with, who'd most likely return the affections, after all. Using my power, I was able to convince the old geezer. Lay off the Sandiami, would you? I respect the guy, except with the give the councils a little too much power thing, but then again, no one's perfect. No, even me, and I'm the reason we had to do this. Fluffy looked at him gently. You know you're not the only one to blame, right, Tycoon? He shrugged. Good point, I can blame you and them instead. Fluffy looked annoyed. Sure. Anyway, with my ability to suggest things in people's heads, I made sure they'd get their current mission. Taizun didn't seem happy though. But really, are you sure about that one? Tayuya, she's one of Orochimaru's minions, a member of the Sound Four, and you want her to get with Naruto. But of course, to restart a clan, you need a verity. That's one of the reasons the Uchiha is going to fail with his attempts to restart the clan. All that will be attracted to him will be weak fangirls, but the Uzumaki will not fall like that. You know, you're oddly loyal to my clan, despite everything. Fluffy glared at him. I have no love for your clan, Baka, but it's either them, or the Uchiha. She said the word like one would curse. Anyway, the girl known as Tayuya is a special case. With the Uchiha and Naruto no longer as a team, the seal no longer has its full extent of its abilities active. But the girl shares the Uchiha's path, thus the potential of the seal for starting a relationship and helping the girl. Besides, every clan needs the aggressive one, and I'm sure little Tayuya will work out quite fine. And I have to admit, the kid's making progress. The moderate Haku, the clingy Fu, the stalker Hinata, and now little Isaribi and Tayuya. You're making this sound like a game. Taizun complained. I don't like thinking of girls like collectibles. Now, don't we have a hermit to catch? Fluffy glared at him. You mean, I have a hermit to catch? But of course, after all, a lady of your caliber will trap Ol Jiraiya easily, Fluffy-chan. Don't you dare call me that again. Demon Island. Amachi slashed with his webbed hand, striking the ice and scratching the surface. He growled and jumped back. That ice dome can't protect you forever. Water release, water bullet. A bullet of water flew from Amachi's mouth and struck the ice where the crack was, expanding the crack. Huh, how the heck did that happen? Naruto asked. He never got much of a grade in sciences, like of the status of water and ice. Amachi grinned. It's science, my Jinchuriki. Water is naturally above 0 degrees centigrade, which ice is below. Also, by entering cracks, the water slowly melts and increases the size of said crack, until his fins I guess, smashed into the huge ice crack, causing the ice dome to shatter, before jumping back as Umabozu lowered a tentacle down for the strike. Earth release, Earth-style wall. A wall of earth rose from Fu and blocked the smashing strike of Umabozu. Tayuya looked serious. Guys, we have to deal with both the fish bastard and the giant glob of liquid, else we're screwed. So, all those who specialize in long range, deal with the fucking blob. The rest of us take out the damn fish man. Fu looked annoyed. Who put you in charge, flat chest? That ticked Tayuya off. She was very sensitive to her small breasts. Why you little? Naruto stepped in between them. Girls, let's fight after we deal with the monsters. They blushed and stopped, though Tayuya tried to hide hers. Well, aside for establishing your pecking order, maybe you should be worried about my pets. Amachi laughed, as he pressed a button via a remote in his hands. From out of nowhere, random trapdoors opened up, releasing giant, mutated cats, dogs, bears, rats and even a 5-headed spider. Gay bastard, Tayuya huffed. We don't have time for all of them. Summoning jutsu. Summoning jutsu. Summoning jutsu. Summoning jutsu. Tayuya, Fu, Haku and Naruto all let out summonings, summoning forth 3 large humanoids with covered eyes and sealed mouths, a giant green and black molted beetle, a dark furred rabbit, and Mr. Ostrich appeared. Tayuya blinked. Alright, what dumb fuck just summoned the bird? Mr. Ostrich glared at her. Watch it, Missy. Tayuya blinked, before drawing out a flute. Alright, I need to concentrate to control my doki, so I leave the rest to you guys. She started playing as the 3 dokis suddenly leapt into battle. Go, Mr. Ostrich, Naruto yelled. The bird sighed, he needed to get paid for this. Shirabito, attack. The dark rabbit grinned evilly before attacking a mutant cat with an evil laugh. Jubatoru, destroy them. The large beetle nodded before taking flight into battle, leaving the remaining 4 to fight the mad doctor and his experiment. Fu-chan, Isarabi, got it, Fu-chan. Isaribi-san, deal with Amachi, Haku-chan and I'll fight the blob. Speaking of, after dodging another attack from the blob, the battles began. V's Umbozu. Water release. Explosion. As a tendril of the ferocious Umabozu was about to slam down, it exploded due to Fu's jutsu. With a roar, the beast reformed and swiped down once again. Aura release. Aura sphere. A sphere of chakra formed in Naruto's hands before it was sent flying at the beast's arms, cutting it off before it reformed and slammed down again. Haku and Naruto barely managed to avoid it. Damn, this thing won't die. Naruto-kun, perhaps we should try to hit the glowing yellow core? Fu pointed at the glowing yellow center. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, I guess that might work. Lightning release, thunderball. A ball of static electricity formed in Naruto's hands before it was sent flying into the beast. But as it hit, it was like it hit something solid as it dissipated, and jumping out the way Naruto and Haku managed to avoid getting flattened. Ice release, ice spikes. From the beast itself, several spikes of ice formed, but they quickly melted. So freezing the thing wouldn't do anything either. No good, we might need some sort of fire release, Naruto groaned. And sadly, I have no inferno release, or anything of the manner, to work with. Damn. But, he did a hand sign, shadow clone jutsu. A dozen Narutos formed, perhaps this might work. Each Naruto drew a kunai, before attaching an exploding tag to each of them. Then all 12 of the kunai were sent flying at the beast. Shadow kunai jutsu. The kunai multiplied into 1,000 of them, all flying into the beast. The beast dissolved into water, avoided by the monster as they exploded behind it. Naruto sighed. Great, I'm out. Haku-chan, you have. No, they all got soiled from the seawater, the various Narutos groaned. This was going to be long and painful. V's Amachi. Fu was having better luck. She could hit her foe, like she just did by sending him flying into the wall. However, it was clear to see that Isarabi wasn't a ninja. What training she had been given was more for placing timed exploding tags, like the ones Mizuki used, on boats. While she could slash, she didn't have the agility to manage a hit. You cannot stop me, I am the future Ocean Lord. My name is Amachi, successor of Neptune. Fu gave him a weird look. Who is this Neptune guy? Water release, water tornado. Fu smashed into Amachi in a water silicone, but the old bat just laughed. Pathetic. He headbutted her, breaking the jutsu and knocking her back on wobbly knees. Water release, water bullet. Fu was hit and sent flying to the ground. Leave her alone. Isaribi smashed into him with the distraction Fu had provided, both scaled beings knocking the other into the ground. He got up first however, and lifted her up in a neck choke. Is this the best you got? Perhaps my experiments would have gone better if I used a ninja. Well then, I shall destroy you now, failure. He increased his grip, before Fu sped into him from nowhere and knocked him into the wall. Her eyes were yellow gold, she had entered her initial Jinchuriki state. You okay? She asked. Isarabi nodded. Amachi forced himself up. So, that is the power of a Jinchuriki? It's more than I expected. I will enjoy harvesting your flesh, and using your demon to rule the ocean. Shut the hell up with the rule the ocean crap. V's all. The battles were getting desperate. The summoned animals Shirabito and Mr. Ostrich had reverse summoned home, too exhausted to continue. The Doki were now sporting new scars and Jubatoru was panting. Tayuya was running low on chakra, so now strange line patterns covered her from her curse mark. Isaribi was on the ground, too exhausted to continue, as Fu and Amachi continued to duke it out in fisticuffs and the occasional water jutsu from Amachi. Haku was virtually out of chakra and on the ground, and Naruto was panting as well. Umabozu didn't appear any more worse the wear, when it roared and sent a water tendril flying at Naruto. Lightning release, lightning surge. Naruto slammed his hand into the ground, as tendrils of lightning flew from him and rose into the tendril. The tendril exploded as Naruto seized his chance. Water release, water fang bullet. A harsh spinning spiral of water rose from below and pierced the glowing center of Umabozu. It roared out in agony as it began to collapse. Yes, Naruto smiled before he turned around to help Haku to her feet. You alright? He asked. She nodded, before her eyes widened. Tayuya, watch out. The redhead turned around, before finding her legs bound by the reformed Umabozu. Get the hell off me. She used her flute to cause her doki to fly at the tendril now that Jubatoru was fighting the last mutant animal. They swung down on the monstrosity, before they were slammed by a new tentacle and desummoned. The tendril then flew straight at Tayuya, now more like a spear than a tendril. Substitution. Tayuya vanished in a puff of smoke, before reappearing next to Haku, where Naruto had been. Because now he had taken the hit. Naruto-kun. Haku and Tayuya gasped, before Tayuya realized she called him kun. Then he began to glow red as the water spear evaporated and his wound began healing. Yes, thank Kami for the fox, Haku sighed. Tayuya looked at the boy in interest. The Kyuubi's Jinchuriki was rather handsome, she thought. Meanwhile, in the seal, Taisun's seal gained a new kanji. Scorch. Scorch release, heatwave. From Naruto, huge waves of heat radiated from him, causing Umabozu to start steaming. The monster cried out as it began trying to force up seawater to replenish itself. Wow, just in time too, Fu commented as they got hit with the heatwave. She, Isaribi, Haku, Amachi and Tayuya suddenly found themselves sweating heavily. Damn, I'm going to smell like hell, Tayuya grumbled. Now, while every girl wouldn't mind a hot guy, this was a little ridiculous. She turned to see Haku panting. Realizing her standard battle kimono thing might be a little hot, she removed it, showing Haku in a pale blue tank top and shorts. And of course, she had larger breasts than she did. At least Fish Girl was a cup like her. What's happening? I can't breathe, he cried out, as his scales began to vanish. Isaribi looked at her hands, and saw the scales were vanishing as well. Cool, I wonder if I can use fire release now. Fire release, fireball. A ball of flames formed in Naruto's hands, applying the same physics as his water and thunderball techniques. Tossing it like a baseball pitcher, Naruto struck Umabozu in the heart. The already overheating water monster cried out in agony as its core exploded into flames, the great beast collapsing to the sea as nothing distinct, for real this time. "No, my monster, you destroyed my monster," Amachi cried, now back to normal due to the scorch release. Isaribi, now back to normal, lifted the man up by his shirt, staring at him with her now scale-less face. As a diver and living alone, Isaribi wasn't exactly weak when it came to muscle strength. "So, looks like you've fulfilled your bargain, I'm back to normal. Now, this is payback." Isarabi tossed him into the water, the man's shirt ripping as he skid across the harsh stone. As he hit the water, he desperately fought his way back to the surface. "Help, help, I don't have any chakra, and I can't swim." The group's sweat dropped. He wanted to rule the ocean, and he can't swim? Fu laughed as she left her initial form. "What a dumb ass," Tayuya giggled. Well, a flaw in the good doctor's plan I see, as is this. Water release, great waterfall technique. Suddenly, the waves picked up, sending the doctor out to sea. "Curse you." Meanwhile in Konoha, Hiruzen-sama, don't you dare let the boy and his team into the Chunin exams. Kaharu screeched. She and Homura were currently confronting the Sandiemi, trying to get him to see things their way, as in the boys shouldn't be allowed to get past Genin. Koura-san, Homura-san, I wish you'd both understand. Naruto-kun is not the Kyuubi. At the same note, Fu-chan is not the Nanabi and Haku-chan is not a spy. They are very skilled young ninja, deserving of the promotion. No they're not. Maybe you don't see it, Hiruzen, but as long as the two Jinchuriki are genin, we can order them around. They be only for the good of Konoha. You two are starting to sound like Danzo-san. Now let me remind you two, I am the Hokage here, you listen to me. Now, let me tell you this, if you do anything to keep Team 11 from entering the Chunin exams, Team 7 will be barred as well. They look stunned at his harsh words. You wouldn't. Hiruzen did the infamous big head no jutsu of Iruka's use, combined with the dark look from Tenzo, Yamato. Don't test me. Back on Demon Island, I'm normal again. Isaribi had tears of joy in her eyes, as she commenced to hug Naruto, getting angry looks from the other girls. Thank you Naruto-kun. More angry looks from the girls. Naruto just smiled. It was no problem, Isarabi-san. Chan, she whispered. Naruto shrugged. Sure. He noticed a little green mark on her arm. He examined it briefly, before looking back at Isaribi. I think I see what happened just now. It appears that the scorch release burned out the imperfections that your abilities had. Most likely, it's now controllable. The girls gave him odd looks. He shrugged. It's the Uzumaki sealed trait. Isaribi closed her eyes, as she started growing scales over her body again, before retracting them. She smiled. Okay, maybe not cured, but at least I don't have to wear those bandages. Tayuya appeared to be in thought. You say you're an expert in seals, right? She turned around, showing the curse mark on her neck. Do you think? He nodded and gave a look over the seal. It's not really expertise, it's more like I naturally get them. Anyway, I'm sorry. Tayuya turned around and looked at his sad eyes. I don't know much about this seal, except that I'd have to do a lot of work to remove it. Where did you get it anyway? She looked away. From Orochimaru. Her eyes widened. Wait, how am I able to say that? The others looked at her in confusion. Say what? Tayuya's hands were shaking. Normally, this curse mark keeps me for telling people things like that, but around you. She looked down, if only I could stay. Why not? Naruto asked in curiosity. We have plenty of room. Fu rose an eyebrow. She knew quite well Naruto was just being nice, but she was still a little possessive. Besides bringing in two people of possible strategic importance, one of Orochimaru's insiders and a person with a new Kekkei Genkei. That would give the old bats legal standing to force out the location of our house. The Sandiemi can't stop them if they say he's restricting something that big. Naruto groaned. That was true. Also, while I could pretend to have died, Orochimaru has spies in place in Konoha. I don't know them by name, but I know he has at least 3. Also, I don't know much, but he has plans to infiltrate Konoha during the Chunin exams. And later invade. Everyone's eyes went wide. This is big, we have to get this to Oji-san immediately, Naruto said, before turning back to Tayuya. We're be discreet, and none of us will use your name. Yuya smiled. I'll just say the cave got flooded out before I got here and the old man is nowhere to be found. That's true enough, I'd be able to say that. And, after the invasion, I'll see if I catch up with you guys again, Naruto smiled. That was probably the longest you went without cursing, Yuya giggled. Oh fuck you. She kissed him on the lips, causing angry noises to erupt from Fu, Haku and Isaribi. Well, see ya around, who knows, maybe I will fuck you next time. She vanished in a body flicker, as Naruto fainted. Fu grabbed him by the ankle and dragged him out. You win that round, flat-chested, she grumbled, before going out to look for Amachi's boat. Isaribi turned towards Haku. Well Haku-san, I'm going to be going my own way for now. Now that my problem is under control, I want to go places, see the sights. But don't worry, you'll see me again. She smiled as she reverted to her scaled form and jumped into the deep. Haku sighed, 2 more competitors for Naruto, and 1 grabbed the first kiss. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.